11,000
Say the last
BCE.
part. Say the
Yes,
last part.
because you also said that another reason why they wouldn't have had Hebrew crossing the Bering Strait was because Hebrew didn't exist back then, um, 11,000 years
Well,
ago,
hold
right?
on.
No, not.
How,
I said
however,
11,000.
He
I
didn't
said
say
no
that, hon.
because
I told him
I said no
specifically
because
that
Hebrew
Hebrew
would not
no,
wouldn't
exist
but he
11,000 years
agreed.
ago.
He
exist.
agreed though.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
that's
agree.
right.
But
11,000
But
years ago, there was no Hebrew.
well, then
Right.
how
So,
did they get it?
however, let me
Did,
finish my
did aliens bring it
let me
down?
finish my
Said it the
point.
first time.
Let me finish my point. Let me finish my point. So okay. So having established that fact that they could not have possibly brought it over crossing the Bering Strait for two reasons. Um, one,
No, I
they
said it
don't
didn't
share
exist.
that. Okay, it didn't exist. Okay, and so okay, so if it didn't exist 11,000 years ago, and much less 23,000 years ago, they could not possibly have carried it over crossing the Bering
So
Strait. Do we
then
agree?
let's go to where it does exist. At
Okay,
what
so
date
that
did
is
Hebrew
so,
exist?
but let me elaborate on that.
I'm not getting trapped in this crossover shit. I'm telling
It's not
you
a
with the
trap.
Udo,
It's facts.
Okay, no, no,
You
no,
think
hold on,
you
hold.
think facts
Let
are
me finish.
traps. That's the problem.
With the Udo
You think
Aztecan
facts are traps.
with the Udo Aztecan Empire, Hebrew did fucking exist, and it fucking
How?
preceded the Aztecs. That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
You
Okay.
just made an assertion. How?
Oh,
No empires.
you want me to prove to you how Hebrew
No,
existed
hold on,
before the
hold.
Aztecs? No problem. Yes, I'm glad this is on live.
No,
We had city states.
okay.
That's the
He's not
He
necessarily
wants you to show him how
stating that
Hebrew
no.
preceded the
That's the
Aztecs.
first.
No
That's the first
problem.
truthful thing he said
No
all
problem. I would
this
love to
whole
do that.
time.
Because this is what we talk
Okay,
That's the
about.
but
first
Stop
look,
truthful thing
dancing
you've said
around
the
the
whole time.
this is my point. But this is my point. This is my point. So when we agreed that that Hebrew didn't exist 11,000 years ago, and they couldn't have possibly carried it crossing the Bering Strait. Now you don't want to talk about crossing the Bering Strait, whatever. Okay, see, you don't want to talk about that. Okay, that's fine. But when we talk about, okay, so then how did they get it, right? This is the part where,
Fill the
because you
gap
don't
in.
want to.
Fill the
Because
gap.
you don't want to assert, how they would have physically get it, because
Okay.
you want to
Omar.
put
Hoon,
linguistics
you're
in the
going around me.
ether.
Hoon. Let's get to
Well,
the point.
he
The point is, at what point in time was Hebrew being spoken in the other part of the world? That let's determine what that date is, okay? And then let's cross that over to the Americas, okay? From the other side of the world to the Americas, if there was no contact between the people speaking it.
Y'all want to
Because
address
at the time Hebrew, wait, at the time that Hebrew was being spoken, it's at its conception, the Americas was already populated. So how did it mysteriously go across continents and an ocean and insert itself into a people already populated into the Americas? Did aliens just come down and bring Rosetta Stone?
And once I
well, that's the problem, Omar. That's the problem, Omar, because he doesn't want to. He doesn't want to. He doesn't want to address a physical contact. He wants to say that the methodology of linguistic comparisons doesn't require
yes,
that.
I want to be scientific.
Wasting our time hanging out that or continue clowning. So I'm continue clowning.
We're not even debating the methodology. We're just asking how could it have gotten there. And you have to also be able to show how.
So Omar says, wait, hold on. Omar says, F your contact. Well, I'm going to say just the opposite. F your methodology. Now prove it.
I'm glad you said that on live.
Well,
I'm glad you said that on live.
F your contact. Go F your methodology.
Retard, bro.
I'm glad you said
how
that on live.
Udo-Aztecan came into the Americas.
No, I would say this. Not. I would say this.
Go ahead.
I would say this, not F your methodology, F your claim that you don't need a linguist to support, to even not even one linguist to support that. That only Amar can assert that, and the rest of the world has to
because Amar's a linguist and he knows it all.
Because Amar's a fucking sociopath.
Because Amar made
Dunning-Kruger is amazing.
Because Amar also asserts that
Dunning-Kruger indeed. Thank you, Khalid.
Japanese influences.
Khalid made a perfect point. Dunning Kruger effect.
Exactly.
That's what's going on.
You don't even know what that shit is, you dumbass. You don't know what that shit is. You're a chronic liar. You're lying.
And Hun, it goes back to our conversation.
You're a douchebag, dude.
You're a douchebag. Hold on 1 second. I was saying that, Hun, it goes back to our conversation from last time. He would have to demonstrate, because Hebrew in itself became extinct. And when we had that conversation, after his dumbass, yes, ancient Hebrew became extinct as of the 6th century BC. That is a fact.
The original form, yeah, just like Nahuatl, just like there's class A, just like there's classical Nahuatl, and there's not classical Nahuatl anymore.
Ancient Hebrew. Before I continue to embarrass you.
You don't even know about languages. He can barely speak English himself.
Can I ask this? Can I ask this? Can I ask this? Amar. In what part of the following Nahuatl? In what part of the following, because I speak a little bit of Nahuatl, in what part of the following Nahuatl sentence can you find a Hebraic rules to the language? Because you said that the input in it was very blatant, and because up to the point where in our last video, you even stated that the whole of Uto-Aztecan language was Hebrew. So if that's the case, in what part of Totiot, Sintli, Quetzalcoatl, Ka y Pante, Wani, Waninkewe, Tlalme, is there some Hebrew in there?
I never mentioned Noah.
I never mentioned Noah.
I said, you don't know what you said, bro.
I never mentioned Noah. What I did, I said,
you're a clown, dude. We're going around in circles.
I said,
we're getting used.
And Yaki, I was very specific. Y'all danced around that. I didn't say nothing about it. I said Uto-Aztecan, and I got more specific. I said the Cahitan languages of Mayo and Yaki.
And you can't prove that. And you don't speak those languages.
Now, do you speak Yaki? Do you speak Yaki? I didn't fucking
I don't
think
need
so.
I don't need
exactly, you clown. You don't speak
I don't
so
need
be
to.
Quiet. So you
don't even know how to spell knowledge, you big dummy.
None of y'all. I know.
You don't even know how to spell knowledge, you big dummy.
You ready?
You don't know how to spell knowledge, you big dummy.
Knowledge is spelled it's spelled AMAR. That's knowledge.
Yeah,
right. It down.
You're full of shit. You're full. You just got Hulk smash, motherfucker. You're weak.
Like I said,
you're weak.
Nobody else.
You're weak.
This is the third
you got
time
Hulk
I got
smash.
on live.
You got Hulk smash. You're a clown.
You got smacked around like the bitch you are.
You got smacked like a little bitch.
Expose yourself. From now on, call me King Montezuma. I'm Hulk smash. We can't come to a conclusion. I tried to be scientific.
We can't come to a conclusion because you're a dancer. Because all you do is dance. Because you should be on a show dancing.
Science. Show me where it says in the method where you need contact, and we can have this talk. None of y'all provided.
Okay, Omar. We are not debating the methodology, but you have to demonstrate how it was brought there. Brought there without contact.
Name a linguistic, idiot.
Name a linguistic. Name a linguist anywhere, any linguist that's credible that would tell you that
you know what it is. You know what it is, dude.
Borrowing do not require some sort of contact.
He doesn't want to name Clyde Winters. That's who he thinks it is.
Originating from a parent language.
Source is Clyde Winters. He just doesn't want to.
That's what the fuck
doesn't want to say.
I enjoyed myself, but it's clear.
It's clear you're a clown.
It's clear I enjoyed myself too with this video. I can't wait to put it up tomorrow.
Yes, please put it up. I assume that this is the almighty Jamie Sandoval. This time put it up. Make sure that you get the fucking
This is Ringling Brothers. This is a clown.
You went extinct in the 6th century BC, and yet you are asserting, that it would have existed in the Aztecan language. When the Uto-Aztecan Empire, guys, correct me if I'm wrong, was from what? The 1300 BC till colonial time.
I know you upset, man. It's okay.
So how would you? So we can confirm the timeline. No, let's confirm the timeline, Omar, because you're full of shit.
Listen,
the Uto-Aztecan Empire period existed from the 13th century BC until colonial time. So we're talking about the 15th century AD. Now in the Levant.
No. 13th century AD.
Exists in 13th century AD, right?
Look at this nigga don't even know what's
while in the Levant, So while in the Levant, it went extinct in the 6th century BC.
You don't even know when the Aztec. Listen, you got your time.
It went extinct in the 6th century.
Now he's gonna harp on a little mistake. Now he's gonna harp on. That's what he does. He pounces on a little mistake.
No, Amar, that's perfect. That's perfect. That we had to make that distinction between AD and BC, because now the gap is even
bigger,
longer between Hebrew and Uto-Aztecan.
Right, but y'all are saying that Hebrew didn't exist when the Aztecs was around. Is that what y'all are saying?
No,
right. That it went extinct. That it went extinct in BC.
It went extinct in the 6th. You see, you wanna get on me for a little mistake, because I know that hold on. You wanna get on me for a little mistake because I know that I don't have a dominant grasp of the Mesoamerican culture. I can admit that. I don't have a problem with that. But I do, one thing I do dominate is Middle East history. And I know for fucking fact that Hebrew went extinct in the 6th century BC. So how the fuck was it that shit in the 13th century AD? Explain that shit.
Listen, if you think Hebrew is extinct, I don't even know.
Hebrew went extinct. Anymore. Ancient Hebrew is extinct. The only modern Hebrew is not the same as ancient Hebrew. That's how you know what the fuck you're talking about.
Make up your mind.
Modern Hebrew is not the same as ancient Hebrew, Amar. The only way modern Hebrew was able even to be revived was the leftover languages, was the leftover ancient Hebrew languages that are in the Old Testament. That's the only way it was able to be revived. But it went extinct in the 6th century. Google it.
Yes or no?
Google it.
Yes
Google
no?
it. It will tell you 6th century BC. Google it. Google it. It went extinct. It went extinct and it was replaced by Aramaic, you fucking dumbass. Not even Jesus, if he would have existed in the 2nd century, in the 1st century AD, would have been speaking Hebrew. He would have been speaking Aramaic because the language went extinct. You fucking idiot.
You're saying that Hebrew didn't exist around the time of the Aztecs.
Hebrew did not exist around the time
in its ancient form.
It went
in its ancient form.
Its ancient form went extinct.
Because this guy's saying Hebrew didn't exist around the time of the Aztecs.
No, I'm saying what I'm saying it did not. What I'm saying is
you're not qualified.
No. What I'm saying is it went extinct in the 6th century BC.
Listen. It's clear that Hun is the most knowledgeable of all of you, so you got to be quiet.
No. You need to be quiet because you need to be able to answer how did the language go extinct in the 6th century BC in the Levant and yet still exist in Mesoamerica?
Hold on. You have less knowledge than I thought you did.
Answer the question.
Amar.
You don't know shit. You just answered the question.
Amar, are you aware that even modern Nahuatl speakers today cannot understand Nahuatl from 500 years ago? No.
Yeah,
you know why? Because
I bet you don't know why.
Language changes over time and goes extinct. Classic Nahuatl does not exist anymore.
Do you know
it's like Latin.
Do you know what changes? Do you know what changes happened in that language in the 1800s? No, I don't.
I don't need to know to know that it's.
I speak the language, but I don't know the history of it. That's why.
You don't even have knowledge.
But to be fair though, Jamie, classical Nahuatl is still extremely close to modern Nahuatl.
It's not the same.
It's not the same though. But Jamie's point was that languages evolve regardless. Amar, but I can even I know a anthropologist that studies classical Nahuatl. And I mean, we can call him up. I've spoken to him before, and he does not subscribe to any Hebrew input in Nahuatl at all.
Because you know why? Because every time I bring this up to Native Americans, respectfully, they only could talk
respectfully.
About.
You mean disrespectfully?
Let me finish. I said respectfully. They only could bring up Nahuatl, but when you start getting into the rest of them shit, especially the languages that was spoken in northern Mexico, everyone.
Yes. But Nahuatl is still part of the Uto-Aztecan family, and your whole point was
that's
that the Uto-Aztecan
that's the largest speaking family in America.
Nahuatl, because Nahuatl was the one that survived the most. But I said the
Okay, but that's all irrelevant. What's the Hebrew input? Where's the Hebrew input?
I'm talking about the entire.
Right, no, you need to talk about the Hebrew. Don't let him get off track. How did the Hebrew get in there? Don't let him get fucking off track. Let him answer how the Hebrew got in there.
Salvador.
Listen, it's clear that Hun is the smartest of you all. So
it's clear that you're a fucking idiot. You need to say,
I don't care.
Language got
you.
There's this.
It doesn't hurt me, Amar.
Listen,
hey, Amar,
there's this.
My feelings are hurt. My feelings are hurt.
We have a sister.
Amar, your feelings are very hurt.
We have a sister that speaks.
Mr. Sandoval.
So the Yutu Aztecan version in Mexico, we are not going to regard it at all. Okay. I have a sister that speaks Yutu Aztecan from the U.S. She doesn't see any Hebrew in it, and we can.
Which language? You got to be specific.
Ute.
No, you don't.
Ute.
No, you don't.
Ute.
Yes, you
Ute.
do.
But now we have two now. But now we have two languages that are dominant and that are.
Now you want to narrow it down to the specific language?
Because there's at least 30 languages in that family tree, genius.
Specific tribal language. At first we talked you know, bro.
But look, you can tell he's a fucking. You already know he's a fucking idiot because he can't tell the difference between ancient Hebrew and modern Hebrew. He's a fucking moron. They wouldn't be speaking modern Hebrew in the 13th century AD either.
I never said that. But you don't even know the difference in what you think Hebrew is extinct. You don't
ancient Hebrew went extinct in the 6th century. Why won't you Google it?
Because it's a fact. Hebrew was resurrected by Zionists.
Exactly. And the Zionists resurrected it in the 1900s when they were trying to find a way to immigrate somewhere. Either Nigeria was the first place that they wanted to go to by the Zionists Theodore Hertz, because I know Middle Eastern culture. You don't. So you
I'm glad
Theodore Hertz tried to resurrect. Theodore Hertz was trying to find an answer to the Jewish question. And what he decided was he was going to be Nigeria that he was going to go to, or he was going to go to Palestine and bring Jews back to Palestine.
You made way too many mistakes.
That's when the language started being resurrected. But the language was extinct. So how were they speaking an extinct language in the 13th century?
Find somebody, right?
No. Answer the question. How are they speaking an extinct language in the 13th century?
You done made too many.
Answer the question. How were they speaking an extinct language in the 13th century?
I'm speaking to Hun because you're a moron.
No, you're a fucking idiot. Answer the question.
Hey, you know what? Hey, hey, Amar, it's pretty clear. Amar, it's pretty clear why you want to always come back to Boone, because he's the only one that's not clowning you. That's why.
He's the only one that's being nice to you because fucking Amar is the only one that's
being. Because Hun is fair. Hun is a fair person.
Hun is a fair, and he's also smarter than all of you.
That's okay. That's okay. Hey, you know what? But you know what? But who will tell you that he learns from me? Who will tell you he learns
from me? How to tell
from me, because I have no, he doesn't know.
How to tell
okay, but the bottom line there is everybody here is smarter than you.
But yet you can't.
That's a fact.
Disprove my claim
because you have Dunning-Kruger effect.
So why would we? You have Dunning-Kruger effect. You're a fucking moron. You need to be quiet.
Nah, but I
Hello.
Disprove my cognates thing. Disprove them. It's that simple.
Well, to be fair, Jamie's. I've learned many things from Jamie because Jamie is he's actually from the Pueblo tribes, so
he's an asshole.
I mean, I've learned from him.
I've been called worse, Amir. It doesn't bother me.
I've learned. See, this is what we all stick to. To our field. This is why we all stick to our respective fields of expertise, because we have the brother Khalid here who is a Carib from the Caribbean. So we all have our own things that we can speak on and have massive years of work put into this.
We're the only ones that have tied to our ancestors, unlike Lamar.
Lamar only has ties to crack.
Come on, man.
But anyway, I wanted to welcome Ron the live
Ron,
stream. I think
hey,
Ron just
welcome,
joined.
Ron. Can you repeat what you just said?
Oh, Ron, you made it.
Hey, yo, what's
You
up?
missed the
Can you
roasting.
repeat what you said?
I got the man.
I wanted to go. I'm not trying to start anything, or but I did find two linguists that support that. Orrin Lewis and Laura Reddish.
That supports what?
Mm-hmm.
They support the Hebrew and thing that y'all was talking about, whatever.
You don't even know what we're talking about.
You to a
Put that in
second?
the text.
Spit it out.
Yeah,
Yeah. Okay. Yes.
Orrin Lewis and Laura
Okay.
Reddish.
Give us
Jamie,
the
are you
name.
there?
Lick
You
it in the
listening?
chat.
You listening, Jamie?
Yeah, but you couldn't do
Yeah,
it. You couldn't do it,
we can
Amar.
go over
I
it.
don't have to do it.
Now he gave us a name. Now we can cross-reference it.
Truth stands
I'm a
on
good
its own.
researcher.
I don't got to do it.
Hey, Ron, well,
But,
thank you very
Ron
much,
is
Ron,
smarter than you then because he was able to research the bullshit claim that you didn't even want to fucking provide.
Here's the deal. There's people that subscribe to many things. That doesn't mean it's true.
Exactly.
Actually, if you go to their website,
so we will take Ron's name. Hey, so we will take Ron's sources and we will scrutinize it. No, you just didn't hear what I said, Amar. You're not listening. You're not listening.
I'm not trying to support anything.
We will take Ron's sources and we will check them out because Ron was at least gracious enough to provide a name which you couldn't do because you were busy doing the backstroke.
I don't have to. It's outside the rules.
Bullshit. You don't have to because you don't want to.
Because he doesn't know.
Because you're playing a game.
I don't have to.
Because you're weak. Because you're weak. At least you know who he is, but at least he was gracious enough to provide some name so we can investigate this further. That's how it works. You couldn't do it because you're a clown.
If you go to Orrin Lewis page and Laura Reddish page, they got a whole page of Native American stuff. And
do you have a link? Can we? Do you have a link?
I do have a link. I don't know
in the Google chat.
All right, got you.
Thank you, Ron, for helping him out because Jamie Sanders.
No.
You should thank him for helping you out.
Thank you for helping you out,
He did great work.
See how he is? See the game he plays?
He's more of a competent researcher than your dumbass.
See how he plays this game? Ron, Super Ron to the rescue.
You should thank him.
Super Ron to the rescue.
No, it's not like that.
Shut your ass up, Amar. You're a clown.
With his yellow ass teeth. You don't want to see all that. We don't want to see all that, bro. This Colgate, man.
What a clown. What a fool.
Hoon, did you get those sources?
No, he just posted one right now in the chat. Cool. I will. Okay, yeah. Cool. So you can't see the chat, Jamie?
No, I have this on my iPhone, and I only see a.
Okay. So I just posted it in our private group.
Okay, because even in the final battle group,
can you guys post it because I don't see it.
It's you should see Google, Hangout chat. I'll post it. Oh man, they fucking
Orrin Lewis
nativelanguages.org. Nativelanguages.org. Okay.
And scroll all the way down to contacts, and they both of their names are going to be there.
I see that. I see it, Ron. Okay.
Contact.
At least Ron was able to provide it. Oh, this is the thing about the Cherokee. That's been debunked.
What? That was. Hold on. They not linguists though. That'll back that up though. That's what I was trying to.
There's linguistics that have debunked it already. So okay. Like I said, just because it's a source. Hey, here's the thing. Here's the thing, Ron. I'll give you credit that you provided a source. I respect that. But just because someone cites a source doesn't mean it's true. You can cite Clyde Winters all you want. That don't mean it's gonna be valid.
Nah, I'm not trying to. No, I'm not. No. It's not that. I'm not trying to. I was just hearing you talking about how
see that shit?
No, there's no Native Americans that back that up.
We knew that already, Ron. Okay. We already knew that. It's a known fact that there's been people that have tried to link the Cherokee to Hebrew.
Okay.
Amar doesn't know that because he doesn't know shit about Native Americans. Because he's not saying
But you see, the Cherokee. What do the Cherokee have to do with Uto stacking?
Nothing.
So that doesn't even
absolutely
fucking
nothing.
I never said anything about the Cherokes and Uto Aztecs.
But that's the source Ron brought in.
You never provided
that's the source that I had though.
You never provided shit though. You were supposed to provide.
And we appreciate that, Ron. We appreciate that.
Because I seen they was both Native Americans, so I'm like, okay.
Ron, so, we appreciate that, Ron. You provide the source.
It has nothing to do with his claim that Hebrew had an input into Uto stacking. Had nothing to do with it, but we appreciate at least you was willing to bring it through, but it didn't help him.
They're not even going to count any of what you gave them at all.
Hey, because you know why? Because it's not
Cherokees and not Uto stacking, you idiot.
It's not back in your claim.
I never even mentioned
we know you didn't. But
I never mentioned Cherokee.
But
even though they part
you're
of
saying,
Jewish DNA.
But you're hyping Ron up like he did something good.
I mentioned that.
You're hyping Ron up like he did something good. He didn't do anything good other than provide a source.
I'm just,
the source doesn't apply to this convo.
You see how ungrateful they are? You see what I'm saying? That's why I don't answer shit.
Ungrateful to what? You haven't provided, and what he provided did not help your case.
Okay, how about we should start a new talk. How about let's leave the whole Hebrew thing alone.
Case, I was just just trying to research. I was trying to help
you did, Ron. We appreciate it.
There's nothing wrong with that. It's just that he wants to make a claim regarding the Hebrew input in Uto stacking, and your links, don't help that. Don't help his case. So he's hyped for what? Like he's like a fucking corny little ass kid at school that just got a new lunchbox.
Listen, don't get mad. It's okay.
Okay.
It's all right.
It didn't even help your point, bro.
It's
That's
all
the
right.
fact.
It's all right.
That's the fucking fact.
Ron, is there anything, guys? Ron, is there anything that you would like to add to like the convo or anything that you've observed so far?
Yes.
Anything? Any new input?
Yeah, I've been studying the Nahuatl language.
The
what?
Nahuatl.
The Nahuatl.
The TL.
Yeah. Can you explain to me why they use only 4 vowels and they don't use you?
The U it's usually used as a W, like phonetically, like how it sounds off in the language. Like for example, I mean the word itself, the word for the language itself, it has a U. If you want to hello. Yeah, if you want to because they didn't write in Latin, so we have to use Latin letters to try to phonetically sound out what they would say. So in that aspect, you
but
can.
Some languages also use six vowels too, though.
But so my point is, my point is that you can consider it a U or you can consider it a W. It's the same difference.
Like now,
even in the
because we spell NAW or NAUH. Either way, it's correct.
El Salvador has the same if you spell the H, it turns into W too.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right.
It's because we're using English.
Right. What makes their language peculiar, and I'm not sure if it's the same for all of the U2 Aztec language, but I mean, for now, without a doubt, what makes it peculiar is the what we try to mimic as a TL together, the T sound. It requires you to like hold on your tongue to the top of your mouth, and like you kind of gotta let the sound out through the sides of your cheeks. So it's like a Nahuatl or Quetzalcoatl, and even then it's soft. Like a lot of people that they just can't naturally speak it, they overdo it or whatnot, but it's just a subtle click sound. It's like a click sound almost,
which has nothing to do with that.
That's peculiar to it.
Cool.
Yeah, it has nothing to do with Hebrew.
I'm not supporting it, you asshole.
No, I'm not addressing that at you, Ron. I'm not addressing that at you. Our old friend Amar here I'm just letting you know that Hebrew doesn't have that.
They mad, Ron. I got them scrambling. It's all right.
Yeah, in your dreams, buddy.
What, bro? You have yet to answer a question in 2 hours.
Dunning-Kruger effect. All the way.
And Amar is really intelligent in like physics and stuff like that. He really got I'm telling you, like he really is, yo. I'm dead serious.
Bro,
really
Rob, man, you comedian, my homie.
Yo, bro, seriously, man. I met him personally, man. He's a real cool kid, yo. Seriously. Like, you know, he owned a business and like everything, like, you know, he good.
Well,
you know?
Is that Amar or was that the Yashua guy?
Hebrew is.
Yeah, was that is it Amar that you're talking about, or is it the Yashua guy we went live?
Because I met up with Amar because do a debate together. So
Okay.
that's why.
Okay, but
we're supposed to debate. Well, not together, but debate each other. So, you know.
Okay.
That's space.
You know, so.
Well, so in closing, has not proved his claim that Hebrew is attached to Uto-Second languages, so we can all say goodnight, right?
Pretty much.
Until next time, fellas, I enjoy these lives. Got them scrambling.
Yeah, right.
Listen, the only thing that's scrambled here is your brain. Don't do crack.
Listen, hon, thank you for your fairness and thank you for your intelligence. Please teach these guys something.
Amar. Hey, bro.
Amar, you're a fucking idiot. You failed to show how a fucking language that became a
Hey, Amar.
survived in the 13th century in Mesoamerica. You're a fucking retard.
Amar, thanks a lot for the comedy. We appreciate it.
Good night.
I got them scrambling.
Don't do crack, Amar.
Crack is black.
Jamie Sandoval, it's a pleasure, man. You.
Hey, Amar.
You're a prick, but it was a pleasure.
Hey,
me and Jamie.
But you know what? I'll shake your hand.
Yeah, Jamie got into it a whole lot of times.
Who's the other guy? He's a comedian. You must be the mascot.
Bro, you feel like the type to be the mascot of the fucking methadone clinic where you should be going to for fucking rehab.
Hey, Ron.
Ron, crazy,
you said that we got into
really
it before.
Crazy, man.
Ron.
Yep.
Ron.
Difficult
you and I got into it before?
What happened?
You said you and I got into it before?
Hell yeah, plenty of times. You don't remember me?
What's your last name?
Ain't you Jamie Sandoval?
No, that's Jamie Sandoval.
Hey, I'm talking to Ron, not you, Amar. Shut up. Hey, Amar, shut up. I'm talking to Amar. That's to Ron. Ron, tell me who you are. That's Ron, and I can't see anything.
Ron Lewis Major.
Oh, okay. What's up, bro?
Yeah, you got into it a lot.
Yeah. Hey, but you know what? We often say friendly stuff too.
Yeah, true.
Okay.
You got it.
It's all good, man. It's all good.
Hey, man, that's pretty cool that you're trying to learn Nahuatl, bro. That's what's up.
Nah, it's for a debate though. That's why.
Who are you debating, Ron? Who are you debating?
You, man. That's what I'm debating, bro.
Of course he wouldn't waste time with you, Amar. You like the lowest of the fucking totem pole, bro.
This dude said Hebrew is extinct.
You're beating it.
Damn.
BC. Look it up. It only survived in the Old Testament until it was
Ready for that.
But seriously though, Amar, why are you denying that picture is you?
Because it wasn't. The picture he posted was of my dead friend. He's a disrespectful bastard. Why I didn't post it. So you disrespecting.
I just saw it there.
Shit like that.
So you have like 10, 15 pictures of your dead friend?
No. In fact, I posted a picture of me since y'all was so obsessed with fucking taking pictures of me. I just saw the thing. I'm just curious to me. Listen. I understand when you can't prove shit logically, scientifically.
Dude, you're gonna leave this chat not proving anything. So I don't know what the fuck you're on.
Listen, you don't. You're gonna prove anything. So what you talking about anymore? You
literally.
You said tonight. I don't even count you,
Amar.
Please, in fact,
the only thing that you've proven.
I only want to talk.
Amar.
The rest of
the only thing that you've proven
is gonna be nice.
Amar.
I admit,
the only thing you've proven is is that you have Dunning-Kruger effect. That's it. That's
and
all
you're
you
a fucking sociopath.
Look it up because you don't know what it means.
Ridiculous.
Listen, I got you. I know.
Dunning-Kruger
effect. The input of the Hebrew and Uto Aztecan. You failed to show us a linguist that co-signs with that, and you failed to show how an extinct language would survive to the 13th century AD in that region.
All of this is new to them. They don't want to admit that. They tried to find a standard and they couldn't. That's why they're fucking
What standard, nigga? You didn't even provide a fucking standard, neither evidence for your ridiculous
claim, bro.
You're a fucking clown, man.
I read the standards on live. I read them out.
You're a clown. You need to prove your point.
He's so dumb. He thinks Ron helped his case.
I know, dude. Like he fucking posted a link about Cherokees has nothing to do with your case. He got mad hype too. He was like, "Yeah, Ron, get him, Ron," and it has to do with Cherokees. You dumbass.
I wasn't trying to get anybody. I just heard the conversation.
You know, it's like he got mad hype with the little girl. He was like, "Yeah. Thank you, Ron."
They spent 1 hour trying to get what you sent them. 1 hour.
Yo, the shit that you sent tonight, man, you need to get the fuck out this group forever. Just based on the.
Why don't you post the video right this time?
What a clown!
Like you did earlier.
What a fucking clown, bro.
So when you get a chance.
Hey, Ron, what do you consider your strong suit to be? Like in general.
I'm like all over the place, like African history. I branch off to like a little physics. You know what I'm saying? I'm in these physics groups, and I'm surprised.
You were going in on that last chat we had with this Yisrael Yashua guy, whatever his name was.
Yeah.
But, what you think about that?
But
that gravity isn't real. What do you think?
Man, gravity is real, man. Like that shit
is he the guy that wears all the funny feathers?
He believe in dinosaurs.
Crazy.
No, he's I don't know what exactly his name is. He's like Yisrael or something.
You know how much I argue in like the other physics rooms about other scientists thinking electromagneticism is like the gravity and gravity don't exist.
Yeah.
That shit is just fucking stupid. Like I just don't get it.
It's the same thing how niggas say that the fucking supposedly the world is flat because they can't see curvature. Like it's fucking retarded.
Curvature
equation. You get close enough,
I've been in those groups.
Right, if you get close enough to a basketball, I bet you'll miss the curvature too.
Well, Amar's thinking is right in line with that.
Amar, do you think the world
Jamie is the insult king, man. I tell you, he's the insult king, man.
Yo, I honestly thought when I started talking to them that they believed the Earth was flat. I thought they were because
coming from a motherfucker that claims that Hebrew was an input to second language. When the Hebrew stuff was flat, you shut your stupid ass up.
You know how I know he's a clown? The last live they started and they was talking about quantum physics, and they were mentioning Einstein, and they were saying how with science, they was talking about like how one culture can have something and another culture can have something similar. And their logic for that was, great ideas can span around the world and they could mystically have the same fucking idea, even though they don't have no kind of interaction with each other. And I'm like, isn't that mystified? That shit ain't science.
What?
That's why I'm like, what? What?
I'm trying.
But that's not physics, though. I think he's alluding to the what we call the cultural comparative game, which does have a evolutionary psychological explanation to it. But that's different from physics.
See, that's how you. Amar, go the fuck to sleep, man.
That's Mr.
You're way past your bedtime, boy.
Listen, don't get mad, man. I understand.
You're way past your bedtime, boy.
This is new to you. I know all this shit is new to you. So you got to go hit your Googles and your libraries. I understand. Listen, let Hun take.
When was the last time you were allowed in the library?
Come on, man. Stop it.
He doesn't even know what library.
Stop it. I understand. Listen, This is new. I get it. You got somebody talking about Chinese influences and Hebrew. Y'all are shook. I get it.
Hey, you think you're the first dummy? Hey, Omar, you think you're the first person to bring that shit to the table?
And that's white people.
White people been doing that shit for fucking 500 years.
Wasting time and talking shit for like an hour. You have
to
Omar,
when I asked them,
you're just like the white man.
When I asked them,
you're just like the white man. All you do is tell niggas what they didn't do and who they are.
And Seattle, they can't give me an origin. Is that an original culture that they practice? They can't answer. They have zero facts. Explain to me why Quetzalcoatl got the same shit as Jesus. Explain that shit to me.
Who? Yeah, I was wondering that too because he was definitely tearing the chat room up.
What? They can't answer with that one. In fact, Ron, ask them. Watch them scramble. Go ahead and ask them.
I mean, I can answer that.
What is the question?
I'll address more than just Quetzalcoatl. I'll address more than just Quetzalcoatl. Like the whole package.
That's Mormon shit.
Yeah. I mean the whole package. The whole package of all. The whole package of having similar ideas and similar philosophies and similar beliefs all around the world is simply by virtue of being humans. It is evolutionary psychology because as we are migrating, like for example, the most there's levels of complexity in the pantheon. Okay, the most simplest level, the most primal one is to believe in a prime mover or intelligent design, right? The God of gods, and that is the most primal one, or the most easiest to conjure up with any peoples, because as you experience life and as you experience hardships, it is easy to become overwhelmed by life on one hand. So it triggers a lot of fears of being alone and so on and so forth. But another aspect is just seeing the massive complexity in the environment around you. It tends to make you lean towards a designer.
Thinking. It creates
a designer. And so that's just the first thing. Then as you are socially interacting with people and having these social dynamics, there's a strong hierarchical nature to our societies and us because we are primates. And so it's after believing in this intelligent designer, then after that, the next step is naturally, right? The tribe's leader has to be the one that is the son of God, right? That is like the especially if he's a generous man and he's this and he's that, people look for saviors. That's not hard to do. And then above and beyond that, then you have other the conjuring up of archetypes. Like for example, you have a canine in your culture, regardless of what species it is. If it is a wolf or if it is a jackal, and then I have a dog in Mesoamerica, Xolot, right? And we notice that these canines are very keen, and that we notice that they are very clever, and so they become the archetype for like that clever part of man, that clever part of man. And we do the same thing with creating an archetype for beauty and aesthetics and so on and so forth. And so at the end of the day, as complexity develops in civilizations, and after they die, you come back, or imagine you come from another planet, you would think that these were related simply because they have a lot of similarities. But in fact, they developed independently and came to similar conclusions by virtue of simply having similar psychological wiring in their biology.
Yeah, and living similar circumstances.
So that's your reason why the saviors in each of these are damn near the exact same story, exact same trial. So that's your reasoning. It happens, human nature. You can't explain the process. It's a product of being human.
I explained some of the processing. I explained some of the processing.
He didn't even listen. He just doesn't even listen.
I did listen, actually.
No, you didn't.
Okay.
No, you didn't. Just like you didn't listen to the very first. time that you talked with whom? You didn't listen to shit.
It was real. We have it on on live. Please post it publicly. It's been fun. It's unfortunate we couldn't agree on the standard. I feel bad about it.
No one debated the standard. I mean, you're such a fucking idiot. We never debated.
You liar.
Yes,
See,
yes,
you just lied again.
Go ahead.
Just like
let's not leave on a bad note.
All I want to do is follow science. That's it. Can we
You just
follow
lied
science?
again.
Yeah, follow the science that tells you need to back up your claim, you fucking moron.
There we go. Get it out your system, Jamie.
I mean, it's the truth. Science demands proof. Provide the proof for your claim.
Yeah, and science goes under a process. So show me a process.
Yeah, the process. You need to demonstrate how Hebrew was introduced into Uto-Aztecan culture.
Absolutely. So let's go.
That's the process. Okay, show me your scientific method. How did you get to that conclusion?
So then let's do it.
Show me your hypothesis, your experiment, and ending with your conclusion. Let's take it back to fifth grade science.
So then let's do it. Let's go through.
Okay, yeah, I'm ready. Show me the proof.
I'm with it. Let's get it.
Yeah, show me the proof.
Absolutely.
That's what the fuck I thought.
Let's start right now. We can
talk a big game. He talked a big game.
We can start word for word. That's all I've been asking.
I'm not asking you for that. I'm asking you how it was introduced historically.
And it still won't make a difference, Amar, because ain't nobody gonna co-sign to what you're saying.
I don't need
you can't get a linguist that will co-sign to
because you're the authority on you. Shut the fuck up.
He's a fucking idiot.
You are so white. It's unbelievable. You subscribe to nothing but thinking.
Listen.
In and tell natives who they are, what they're about, what they're here. You're doing exactly what Eurocentrics do to Africa is what you're Americans. You're pitiful. You're a sad excuse for a black person. If I was black, I'd be pissed at you.
I'm just trying to make science great again.
No, you're to manipulate science.
If you have to fucking quote Donald Trump, man, then that just shows
you quoted Donald Trump. You have Donald Trump on your.
What did he?
Compared your intelligence to a fucking Neanderthal.
I'm just trying to make science great again.
You're a clown, dude. Go. Could he be selling a car right now? Selling a house right now?
This dude's a fucking moron. He wants to be like Donald Trump, man.
Yo, y'all crazy, son.
That nigga stupid as
y'all crazy, man.
I'm trying to make science great again.
You're a clown, dude.
Nigga, you need to make those teeth.
You got nobody supporting you, man. You're all alone. Like Pablo said, you're a lone wolf. You ain't got nobody supporting you.
I'm trying to build a bridge of knowledge. Y'all are trying to.
You ain't trying to build shit. You're trying to spread fallacies. That's all you do.
You would have shown the connection.
Build shit. You're a liar.
Listen,
you're a habitual liar. You've lied like 10 times tonight alone. We've all caught you in it. You got 5 people here, and Ron's laughing because he knows, because he heard it.
Like, it's like, yo, you even had the nerve to say that humans coming to similar conclusions depending on the circumstances in their environment was mysticism. When your whole fucking claim to that Hebrew word Uto-Aztecan is fucking mysticism. Are you kidding me?
You're going to tell me that all these fucking saviors got the same goddamn story?
But not all of them have the same goddamn story.
Prove they're connected. Hey, Amar.
No, hold on, guys. Hold on, guys. This is where I have to interject because that's exactly what they don't have. They all have what they have is the general.
They have the
general concept of being a savior, but when you dig into the specific story of each and every single savior around the world, most of them will have extremely different specific details to their life and the specifics of it. Like, so for example, Jesus never sinned, right? In the Mesoamerican version of Quetzalcoatl, the last Quetzalcoatl, the 4th one that came Nakshit, he did sin. He took hallucinogenic mushrooms and he had sex with his sister.
Pause.
And then he had to.
You said Jesus never sinned. That shit is debatable because if you look at the non-comedy,
it's debatable that Jesus never existed.
You gonna let me say?
Would you shut up?
Thank you.
See, I try.
You probably believe he's real. You probably believe he's real.
I got you. Jesus never sinned.
Okay.
That's debatable.
Okay, that may be debatable. Okay, let's say it's debatable, but in general, even. Okay, but regardless, for you to say that it is mysticism, there is a whole field of psychology called evolutionary psychology, and they take all of these things into consideration, how we evolved, the things that we experience. I mean, we have similar experience. To say that beliefs are outside of the realm of, for example, fishing and hunting and gathering is far fetched. Like for example,
No, I'm not saying that.
a lot of people that
I'm not talking about groups of people. I'm not saying that. It makes sense that that's the case. I'm talking about saviors, deities, and these fucking mythological stories. They fucking overlap.
But Amar, at the bare minimum, there's just a bare minimum idea.
They can only overlap.
Bare minimum idea.
There's
bullshit.
Within these religions, there's complexities. And let me school you on something, because you don't know shit about the Middle East. So let me school you on something. Do you even know why the Hebrews believe in the Savior to begin with? Do you even know why?
I don't want to hear you. You're dumb.
Do you know what was the reason?
I don't want to hear you.
Do you know what was the reason?
I don't want to hear you. You're
exactly. You don't want to hear it because you don't know shit. You don't want to know the reason.
You don't know nothing.
You know the reason
about these damn stories.
Do you know the reason? Do you know the reason?
You don't know.
All right,
you don't know shit.
Since you don't know the reason, there's a reason why Hebrews specifically introduced the Messiah idea into their religion, and they weren't, and that's not an original idea to the Hebrew pantheon either. You know why that was introduced?
About no pantheons,
yes, they did. Ancient Judaism was a polytheistic religion. It wasn't a monotheistic religion.
Exactly.
Until they made contact. That word you fucking hate. Until they made contact with the Persians that occupied them for over 200 years. That idea of the Savior was introduced by the Persian from the Zoroastrian faith, which comes from the Persian Avesta, which is the Persian Bible. It was introduced by Persians. But you didn't know that because they made contact, hence showing the cultural exchanges between the two groups. The word that you fucking hate, you idiot.
No, duh, they were polytheistic. That was a standard case.
That was why it was introduced. You should be thankful. You learned something new today.
Listen, you're still.
You learned something new today.
Listen, you said Hebrew was extinct. I can't take you serious.
Ancient Hebrew was extinct. Yes, it still is extinct.
And Hoon said the same thing. Hey, you said Hoon's the smartest guy here, and he said the same thing. So now what?
So now what? And he changed it to ancient Hebrew. Now what? He first said Hebrew because he's a clown.
Oh, so you want to harp?
Bro, I told you specific. Bro, on the last fucking video, I even asked you if you knew the difference between
it's not a mistake.
I even asked you if you knew the difference.
He said,
"Oh, you're the clown. You're the one that denies everything. You're going to slide 10 times here."
Listen,
bro. I even told you. I even asked you if you knew the difference.
Listen, I give you permission.
I made a specific distinction because I told you it was it only survived. Ancient Hebrew only survives in the Torah. There is. Is not ancient Hebrew. It only survives via the Torah.
You still have time to learn. You're young. You still have time.
You don't know I just gave you. I just gave you the reason why through cultural exchanges.
Good night, fellas. Good night.
The Savior culture exists in the Hebrew religion. That's why, because they made contact. Unlike the bullshit that you're saying about the Hebrews and Mesoamerica, which they never made contact because that bullshit never happened.
Get it off your chest.
That's the difference between me and you. You learned something good new today.
Breathe.
You learned something new today.
Breathe.
Hey, Omar, why are you such a slave to your ego?
Not even listening to what I'm telling you because you're a fucking moron.
Why are you such a slave to your ego?
Breathe.
Humble yourself, boy. You learned something new today.
Take it easy.
You learned something new today.
Hunt is very intelligent.
Yeah, Hunt is very intelligent.
And he said the same. And he said the same thing.
Hunt is very intelligent. And you know who's not intelligent? You. So what's your point?
Yeah. I keep y'all.
Exactly. Yeah. Maybe you should breathe because you be stuttering way too much. You have a stuttering impediment.
Go back to your Googles. I know
you have a studying impairment.
This is new
when you Googled ancient Hebrew and you saw that it was extinct.
You said Hebrew was extinct, and Hun corrected you.
I explained to you specifically. I explained to you specifically that ancient Hebrew did not exist at 11,000 BC. And then I specifically explained to you that it did not Judaism.
It's on live.
goes to the floor and then he harps on it.
And that's why you're not gonna post it because you shook.
Nigga, I post every fucking video and everybody is laughing at you.
Yeah, I'm still waiting.
I posted every video and then like, what are you talking about? It's okay. It's okay.
You to post the other one.
It's okay. All the videos are posted.
No, they're not. Stop it.
All the videos are posted. Both videos are posted. Part 1 and part 2 of you humiliating yourself.
Stop it. Listen, it's okay. Listen.
You listen. You're a fucking
He's a liar. What a liar.
You're a liar, dude.
You got room for
you got exposed again on this live, and it's gonna go up again.
He's a glutton for punishment.
He loves getting smacked around.
He must like that.
He didn't even know that the savior idea comes from Zoroastrianism. You don't know shit about Persian culture or why it came.
He's clueless.
You're a fucking idiot.
Oh wow. I want you to say that one. Ron,
go to bed.
Are you listening, Ron?
Go to bed.
Take slaps in your face, Amar.
All right, Ron.
I'm getting tired of smacking the shit out of Amar. Amar, do you have anything to add before you go night night?
I want you to say that one more time on live. What you just said.
Go what?
About Zoroastrianism.
About Zoroastrianism?
And where the savior concept originated. Just say it one more time clearly for me.
Yeah, it came from Zoroastrian faith. That's where the Hebrews got it from.
No change. You ain't You
said that's what I said. It comes from
that's where the savior concept came from. That is what you just said.
Yeah, that's where it comes from. The concept of the savior, of the Messiah in the Old Testament, that comes from Zoroastrian.
No. You didn't say the Old Testament. You said the concept
yes, I did.
Of the Messiah.
I said several times where it came from.
No. Each time you repeated it, you added some new shit. You said
no. I said the same shit.
No, you did not say.
So please tell me what did I say, Amar? Please tell me what are you contesting? What are you contesting?
Amar, stop. Just stop, Amar. You're making
like for real, like you're a fucking moron. What are you contesting?
I understand. So
what are you contesting?
The savior concept didn't exist. You're saying the savior concept did not exist before Zoroastrianism. That's what you're saying.
No, I'm saying that what the Hebrews practiced, the Savior, the Messiah.
You didn't mention Hebrews the first time.
I'm saying that the Messiah, the idea. I said specifically Messiah. That Savior concept did not exist prior to them interacting with the Zoroastrian.
You did not say Hebrews.
That is a fact.
Stop it.
That is a fact.
Oh, you got to post it.
And that's coming off my head. I'm not even on Google or anything. That's something that I know for a fact.
No, you didn't mention Hebrews the first time. Stop it.
Nigga, I've been saying Hebrew the whole fucking chat.
You thought it was extinct and it wasn't.
Idiot.
Listen, fellas, hang up on me like you did before.
We're talking about US Tekken.
Hang up like you did before.
You're stupid, dude. You're a
clown,
you're
a fucking moron.
I know.
What are you contesting? Are you saying it didn't come from the Zoroastrianism? Are you sure you want to debate me on that?
You want to put money on it?
You want to debate me on that?
You want to put money on it?
Do you want to debate me on that?
Do you want to put money on it?
You got no money to bet, son.
Oh shit!
If it didn't come from the Zoroastrian faith,
I bet money. Okay.
Another question you will not answer. Tell me where it came from.
How about a rat?
Tell me where it came from.
The savior concept did not exist before Zoroastrianism. It's simple. Do you want to put money on it? Yes or no?
I'm asking you. If it didn't come before Zoroastrianism, where did it come from?
Fuck all that.
Okay.
Because it wasn't
it's clear. It's clear that for Khalid, what he meant was that
that's right,
that the savior concept. The savior concept did not exist for the Hebrews before Zoroastrianism.
Thank you, Hon.
Exactly what I told him.
For correcting him yet again because
that's exactly what he said.
No, that's not the first thing.
Yes, it is.
It's exactly what the fuck I said. How stupid can you be?
I can't wait for you to. He's gonna edit it out. The first thing.
Okay. To be fair, in the first sentence that Khalid said, he didn't mention it, but preceding that sentence, he was talking about the Hebrews.
Exactly. In the context, we know what he's talking about.
That was the context.
But
Amar
is arguing like a woman does and picks your words apart because Amar is arguing like a woman does.
I know that
because Amar is a woman.
Yes, I don't think this conversation is just devolving. But I was curious to hear what Ron thinks about the evolutionary psychological perspective on the the creation of these different deities and pantheons and beliefs. What do you think about that, Ron?
Well, I feel like, I feel like everybody's is going to. I feel like everybody got their own belief independently, really, because
Right.
everybody is obsessed with death.
Exactly.
Everybody was obsessed with killing people, and like resurrecting them and burying them where like
We all experience the same
their
thing.
belongings. Yeah, true.
We
Yeah.
experience sadness. We experience sorrow, happiness. We experience the same elements. We experience drought. We experience famine. We experience all the same things. So it only is a logical thing that we would event things within our culture that would have similarities, because we are all human beings.
Because I'm African and I don't want to compare myself to nobody else but just African, to keep it real. So
right, but we recognize that at the end of the day, as humans, we do indeed share a lot of similarities, cross cultures and shit.
Well, that's why I was bringing up that whole thing with the Hebrews and where it came from, because I was trying to explain to him within the context, because he hates the whole word of contact, that the only way the Hebrews believed in this savior idea was because of Zoroastrianism, because Zoroastrianism is the oldest monotheistic faith.
That's debatable.
I know how some people like to bring in,
but the thing that baffles me,
I know how some people like to bring that shit in about a Tem, but Tem and the idea of monotheism in Egypt was very, very short lived.
Well, but the fact that it existed proves that shit wrong. Who cares about the time frame?
No.
That baffles me,
because it wasn't considered monotheistic. It wasn't the whole thing with Atem really wasn't considered monotheistic. It was a combination of monotheism and dualism. But if you want to look at something that's completely monotheistic, Zoroastrianism is the place to go.
It was not.
Yes, it was. Prove it. Prove it. Prove it like you didn't prove anything else. Prove it. You didn't prove anything else today.
You made the claim.
Prove it. No, you're saying it's not. So you need to tell me why it's not.
You made the claim.
And I gave you the reason why.
So what dualism? Explain the dualism that he had. Explain it.
Okay, for example, in ancient Egypt, we had Atem who believed that he believed in the sun god, right? But that didn't take away the other. But the sun god, the difference is. But the difference is he still believed in the concept of the sun, and he believed also in the concept of Anubism. You still had polytheism even within that concept of that monotheistic faith, while Zoroastrianism was strictly monotheistic. You had Ahura Mazda. That's true. You're gonna tell me he didn't believe in Anubis?
No, he didn't
believe in Anubis.
He didn't believe in Anubis as a god to worship.
He didn't believe in Anubis as the god of the underworld.
Exactly. So then
you're wrong.
Anubis did not. He did not believe in Anubis.
He did not believe in it. You're wrong. Another reason why you're wrong.
Sorry to intervene, but Khalid, there's some. Khalid, a lot of people in the Facebook, they can't find the live stream. Are we live on Facebook in the group? Because I don't think we are. In fact, I think your account actually got kicked, bro.
Let me see if we got
back in and get kicked out.
Oh man!
Oh shit! I think you're right.
Yeah, your account as a whole got kicked.
Nah, it's just too much cursing and too much. They're gonna kick you out because Facebook that they're gonna kick you out.
It's these abos, man, bro. It's these abos. Every time I ever be live or some shit, these whole ass abos that run with fucking Amar's bitch ass always fucking flat. It's these abos. Yeah, that's what it is. They get pissy, and since we
like the crazy thing about Amar, he don't even support that.
Yeah,
he
does.
He rolls with niggas that co-sign with
that shit. The first interaction I had with him a couple weeks ago, when I called him over to our other, was his exact quotes were Africans were the first Americans.
Okay, but I seen a lot. He said that he don't support the A4, whatever that shit is. He said he don't fuck with that shit.
But he supports her.
We had a 4-hour. Nah, he full of shit. We had a 4-hour discussion. And then
we brought him over, and then we offered him $25,000 to $2,500 to prove
we had to explain the stupid
that
ass
there was an ancient and then we went around and round about an ancient skeleton having African DNA, and we had the same about conversation we're having now on through Facebook, and then Hoon went on live with him and beat the shit out of him. He looked bewildered like a deer. And then he said he was gonna drop links, never did. Same fucking story. Amar
you met me. You know I constantly drop links. All that shit they saying is lying.
That day,
bro, I had you on fucking video. We had you on this shit for 4 hours.
The money.
Explaining to you why Africans could have not been here prior to 1492.
You know what they do? You know what they
do?
You look like
Ron. You know what they do? They make these live streams and then they post it amongst their group. That's it.
What group? We posted it on fucking Facebook.
No, we did not. Yo, he didn't even
yes, we did. It was live on Facebook. The whole thing went live on Facebook.
Yeah, sure did.
You see the second live. You see the second live.
Everybody saw your stupidity. It was live on Facebook.
You see the second.
The first live, you got clowned, Amar.
Everybody.
The look on your face.
You see the second. You see the second live he posted. Now look at the chat room and you tell me what was what. Exactly.
Amar, you're backpedaling, dude.
That chill with you.
I got a question though too about Hun noticed about me. It always baffles me how all the symbols is so perfectly but they all got the same motion and like artwork and like the 7-headed snake and everything. Everybody got a 7-headed snake. Like can you explain that for me? Because it always baffled me. Like I never really got a straight question for that, I mean a straight answer. Sorry.
Well, I would say metaphysical, like that pertains a lot to meta. Yes, I mean same difference, right? Spiritual or metaphysical concepts. A lot of ancient cultures, for example, divided the anatomy of the spirit into it varies, but it usually is anywhere between 3 and 7 divisions, right? So like in Egypt, you had the Ba, Ku, Shechem, Ba, Sahu, Kaibi, Kab. In Mesoamerica, you had in Nahuatl, I forget it escapes my mind right now, but they also had like 5, they had like 5 divisions, and other cultures had different ones. So a lot of times they would create personifications of these and create representations for them in artwork or whatnot. And a lot of it came to like that anatomy, right? Like the most densest part of the spirit is the physical body, and then you have the concrete mind, the abstract mind, and then what they call what's many consider the divine spirit, which was like the world spirit, the realm that everybody goes to after death, and so on and so forth. But that is also it also has a say in your everyday life, and so on and so forth. So it's just things like that. That's how. How I see it.
Okay. All right.
I'll back that up.
Yeah.
I could carry out co-sign on that.
I mean, don't get me wrong. There's other things a little bit more specific. Like, for example, I'll admit this. Like the chakras.
Yeah, man.
I 100%.
That bugs me out.
Okay. yeah. Okay. Because I will admit that, like, the chakras is a little bit very specific, and yet, I mean, I personally do think that it's pseudo. But yet, nonetheless, a lot of cultures. Well, some cultures, I wouldn't say a lot, but I know, like, for example, the Mesoamericans definitely had it, and so that's part of the etheric body, right? Like the part of the ethereal anatomy.
Yeah.
And so that does make you curious, like, okay, other cultures had it. Well, I mean, we know Hinduism had it for sure, right? But so
Chinese had it.
I spoke to that. I spoke, and so I spoke. I asked that question before. I asked it to a lot of and I asked it in a Sam Harris group, and a lot of people in those type of groups. Like they're extremely smart. They're very, very smart people. And one guy in particular, there were a couple that gave some explanation, but one guy in particular gave a very, very, very very reasonable explanation for that. That maybe I'm like, that's perfect. And it had something. I wish I could remember his exact words, but it had something to do with like the nervous system. Like we feel like certain points of general points of like subtle like pressure in the nervous system, right? And so a lot of that may have uh, that may have produced those specific spots for a lot of cultures to point out, right? And it doesn't necessarily mean that it exists at some like subatomic level, right? But it does. You do nonetheless experience it, right? So like for example,
Right.
if every time you're about to experience a crash, or you're about to get into a physical altercation with somebody, your lower abdomen tightens up, right?
Yeah.
So that's a spot right there that is something common to all that we can all experience and agree with. You're about to cry and your throat might choke up,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
so
True.
so you got things like that. You fall in love and your heart gets warm, so it's just
Yeah.
things like that.
I mean, my
and
heart ain't
and
really
that could
get
create
that
that.
warm, but
Yeah.
I'm just
Yeah,
saying.
but
Yeah, because it always
Basically,
baffles me, man.
you're
And like with the
explaining the
swastikas
human
too,
experience.
it's like the swastikas. Like I was looking into neuroscience about like what's the probability of somebody creating a swastika, but I don't remember what they wrote, but they said something, but they explained it well, but
mhm.
Yeah, the
I don't know
swastika.
how would
Yeah,
everybody
the
get a
swastika
swastika.
is like it's like a so a lot of people start out like I know this for a fact, like in Mesoamerica you could definitely see the evolution into the swastika, and it starts off as a
Yeah,
cross, and then from the
yeah,
cross eventually
right, yeah,
the swastika represents like the concept of motion and movement.
which
yeah,
Yeah,
emotion, yeah.
exactly.
Gotcha.
Yeah, every time you talk, Louis is like, like you sound very far away. So
Oh,
sometimes,
sorry,
like you be
sorry.
talking, but I don't think. No, no, not you,
All right,
Ron.
yeah, okay.
Just Louis is.
yeah, because I was on my head, my bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, but back
Okay.
to
Yeah.
what
There you go.
that chakra thing. Some people say supposedly, like how Quetzalcoatl is a serpent, and it could supposedly represent the spine that connects to the brain.
Yeah,
Yeah. I
Humbat's
mean,
been
there's a
kind of
part
does all
of
that
that.
stuff.
Yeah.
That's there's a lot of new age. See, a lot of what's gotten out in the to the public eye,
Mainstream.
to the mainstream about Maya culture. Majority of it, about 95% of it, is all new age interpretations by people that aren't credible, and they've written books, and they basically own the search engines, very like how the Abos own the search engines, how they manipulated these engines. So when you Google certain things, so if you pop up Maya 2012, you're going to get nothing but basically pseudo new age interpretations of Maya culture, and you're going to see white people practicing fire ceremonies and doing all this other stuff, because they've really gone in there, and they've totally
They
bastardized Mayan religion. So a lot of
right.
things and even our people have realized that this is a fad, and they've jumped on this as a way to make money. So we even have our own people that follow pseudo teachings that are new age, and they've managed to filter down, and they become charlatans and pseudo elders that people follow,
Right.
and
I
they do these
and
teachings that are totally new age, like there's this idea of Mayas had yoga, and and we had the same concept as yoga. So they want to make this connection to India, and then of course what's always attached to that is Atlantis and Mu and ancient knowledge, and it just gets all mysticism, and it's all magical thinking. There's no credible sources that say the Maya had yoga other than a couple figurines that look like yoga poses.
Like the chalk moon that has the
where it's got the one hand going up and the other hand the other way.
Right, it could probably be a bow or a obsidian mirror, but it's like right on the chest.
Yeah. So
yeah, you know something interesting about the chalk mold. The chalk mold is actually actually has Mayan or well, according to the anthropologist's interpretation that I thought he had a very reasonable explanation for it. They're like they are like Chilam Balams, you know, the Chilam Balam. In his in one of the Chilam Balams, because you know there's like a bunch, but in one of them he mentioned like the other name that they gave for themselves, and I think a play on words on the word Chilam Balam itself, and a pose that he would do laying down before starting the divination, right? Or I mean, I don't know if they were getting high or what they were doing, but they were writing like these book of prophecies. But anyway, prior to that, like part of the ritual prior to that involved doing a chakmol pose, you know. But they wouldn't call it chakmol. It was just a thing that the anthropologist kind of extrapolated from that story, and he figured that it had some connection to those chakmol statues.
And there's even one inside the temple in Chichen Itza.
Yeah. I think that's probably the famous one, no? The one that there's pictures of everywhere.
Yeah, like it's on.
Or I may be wrong. But yeah, there's a couple out there. There's a couple out there that have spread.
Well, from the evidence I see, there's a lot of evidence from the Toltecas and the Mayans when the structures in Tulan and Chichen Itza and even El Salvador.
Yeah.
With,
yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Oh shit! Lamar's actually fucking quiet.
He's gonna say something soon.
He left.
Yeah, I'm here.
Ryan, you still there?
People are yeah.
No, he's just listening. Kind of fascinating.
I respect people when they drop knowledge. I don't disrespect them.
All right. That's cool. Respect that.
That's what this should be about: exchanging information and finding truth, not in fucking insulting each other.
It should be about questions too.
And yeah, you take the knowledge we give you and you'll twist it to your own bullshit ass agenda.
No, I don't twist nothing.
Yes, you
y'all
do.
got me mistaken. No, I don't.
You straight up lie. You straight up lie, and you deny lying.
No, y'all got me mistaken for them other people in
everybody in this chat will attest to you lying.
Ron, did I lie?
Yeah.
Well, we would definitely. We would definitely. I would definitely appreciate if that wasn't the case, man. Because you know how many people, Amar, like that's the reason why a lot of times we don't share anything, because you don't know how many people take this type of stuff, and then next thing you know, they're on their own personal Facebook or whatever, like completely twisting. Things like this that we say.
It's like that girl that she's.
That's why I have to because I just want him to continue to embarrass himself.
Yeah.
But
like
no, I do see that a lot though.
It's like that girl that puts that picture up of a stickball game, saying that
it was fucking baseball.
It's baseball.
now that. When she did that, that was out of context.
Shit like that is just
You haven't done that, Amar? Amar, you haven't done that?
Wow, can you let me?
Wasn't that lacrosse?
This is the shit I'm talking. No, what I did was I tried to show her that baseball has ancient links to it. If you look at baseball, it's the only sport that encompasses all of these higher practices and elements that the ancients talked about. It's the only sport.
Yeah, it's just like ancient Egyptians. They had field hockey first, like
But let me say this though. I'm not just making it up. If you look at a book called The Rise and Fall of Ancient Egypt by Toby Wilkinson, and if you look at what the Egyptians
origins in Egypt.
Huh? No, I never. I'm being serious. I want to crack jokes. What I was telling her was to look at what she posted, but she posted it to try to link it to that. Shit like that is a false connection. What I was attempting to do was guide her.
Okay, and you saying that Hebrew had an input in Mesoamerica?
I'm absolutely done. This is my point. I was quiet when y'all dropped knowledge and had a peaceful exchange, and it's clear that there's certain people on this line that's too immature to keep this shit peaceful to exchange knowledge. So that's why I get ignorant. That's why I get ignorant and say you're a fucking moron. And I'm gonna continue to pounce on your stupid ass every single time, you fucking moron.
And you're trying to.
Can we all just get along, man? God damn, look.
I want you to put money up. I want you to put money up on that stupid ass shit you said on Anubis, so I can embarrass you some more.
Okay, so did you Google it? Google it.
I don't gotta Google shit. He didn't worship Anubis, dumbass. Anubis helped transition.
Anubis was the fucking brother of Atem.
No, he didn't worship Anubis, dumbass. He didn't worship
Anubis.
Yes, he was. No, he did not.
Yes, he was.
Prove it. He did not. He did not worship Anubis. He didn't worship Anubis. He didn't worship Anubis. Show me a source where it said
your name. You're too immature to have a dialogue because you don't
show me. He can't show me no source where he worshipped Anubis. He didn't worship Anubis.
And you showed no source of Hebrew being part of
transition spirits to the afterlife, you dummy.
Google it.
You don't know shit about Egypt.
Google it.
No, he didn't worship Anubis. He didn't worship it.
Just put $20 that I'm right. Google it.
Put $100 that he didn't worship.
No, I put 20. Google it.
100. He didn't worship Anubis. Fuck your Google.
You're not brave enough.
I'm giving you a source.
Put up 10 racks.
I don't speak out of my lane. I speak in my lane.
Whatever. You are speaking out your lane. You don't got no source. I got a source. I got a source in my hand that shows
you have a source, but you don't even have a source to even prove that there was a fucking Hebrew influence in
you sound stupid. You talking about he fucking worshipped Anubis.
You ain't got no source, son.
Show me where it says you worship
You're
Anubis.
An idiot. I said Google it. Google it.
Exactly.
Hey, Amar, you want him to show you, but you won't show us.
Man, he's full
of
shit.
He's a fucking hypocrite.
That's
shit. And I can show it. I will post a link in this chat and I will show you. I will show you how Anubis and Atem were brothers, were considered brothers. He was a higher deity, but Anubis
was worship Anubis, dummy.
And the Egyptian people worshipped him.
No.
For about almost 100 years until they completely erased Atem from history.
So post that link.
No, I'm not.
I dare you. I dare you. I dare you to post it. I dare you to post it.
Where did Hebrews get the idea for monotheistic faith?
That's what I thought. You won't post it.
They weren't monotheistic, Amar. They weren't monotheistic.
No, they was.
They weren't. Ancient Judaism was a polytheistic faith. It was
polytheistic before them, before Zoroastrianism, you stupid ass.
That's what I said, you fucking idiot. They were polytheistic, but they weren't monotheistic, is what I've been saying. They got monotheism from the
You said dualism. That's not monotheism. That's not the
I'm
talking
about Zoroastrianism. I'm not talking about fucking Atem right now. So you don't even know what I'm fucking talking about. You're an idiot because I'm talking about Zoroastrianism right now.
There's no dualism in monotheism.
You stupid ass.
Hey, Amar, there's no dualism in monotheism?
He's a fucking idiot.
Amar, are you saying there's no dualism in monotheism?
I'm saying that Akhenaten he didn't do dualism.
I didn't say Akhenaten.
Yes, you said Atum. You said Atum. Who did you say?
Right. Do you not know the difference between Atem and Akhenaten? You fucking idiot. Do you not know the difference?
Atum did not worship two people.
What's the difference between Atem and Akhenaten?
Wait. You said
what is the difference?
You said Atum.
Akhenaten worshipped one God and one God only.
Thank you. Akhenaten worshipped one God. Thank you.
And one God only.
What was the difference between Atem and Akhenaten?
Akhenaten worshipped one God.
And that's not what I'm asking. What is the difference? Who is the God that Atem worshipped?
Post the link where he worshipped two gods. Post it.
Who was it?
Just post
the difference.
Dualism isn't two gods. Hey,
Atem.
Dualism isn't two gods. Dualism, one God having dual nature.
I can't hear you.
I said dualism isn't two gods. Dualism is one God having dual.
No, we was talking about monotheism.
You're an idiot. You don't even know what the fuck I was saying because you're not listening.
No,
you're not listening to what I'm saying. I'm saying is that the Hebrew Israelites at first had a polytheistic faith, and they did not incorporate
You're saying that now because Hunt corrected you
until under Persian occupation. That's what I'm saying.
You're saying that now because you got this shit wrong.
I've been saying that the whole fucking time. I've mentioned Persian occupation many times throughout this discussion. You're not listening.
No, you was corrected many times. That's what it was.
No, you were corrected many times because you're a liar.
You're a fucking clown.
Straight up liar.
Amar, we cannot be the expert of everything, and this is clearly not your lane. Like you're talking about, I'm talking about.
It's definitely not your lane.
You're a fucking idiot.
Definitely not your lane.
You're a fucking idiot, dude. I will run circles around you with this shit. You're a fucking
Jamie.
Yep.
I will run circles around you. Like you can't even explain how Hebrew got to fucking Mesoamerica, and then you think you're gonna fucking debate with me?
I can explain. I can explain how the Aztecs don't have a native.
Yo, you're ridiculous. You're a fucking clown, dude.
You can explain what? You can explain how the Aztecs what?
You heard me.
No, we didn't hear.
No, I didn't. Repeat that.
Come on. Let's not go there. Let's not go there.
Don't repeat yourself, Amar.
Yo, but you see how I was quiet? They can't go 5 minutes without being disrespectful.
You don't want to listen at all. The only reason I keep you here is so you can embarrass yourself, and you're doing a good job.
No, you embarrass yourself because you don't got corrected like 10 times.
You're fucking embarrassing yourself.
Go to bed, Mom.
I'll let you talk.
Guys.
Let's move forward. I ain't gonna lie, I smoked the blunt and I'm just chilling, just listening, That's what I'm doing. I'm slow. I'm pretty slow. So I ain't gonna lie. Probably tomorrow when I'm sober, I could get it in, but right now.
Maybe you gotta give Amar some of that, bro. Pass up.
If it ain't Pookie,
no, but he said I had to be corrected 10 times on what? I'm correct when I'm saying where monotheism started with the Hebrew.
So you're telling me that Hun didn't correct you numerous times tonight? That's what you're telling me?
Numerous times on what? He was just making you understand.
Yes or no? Did he correct you numerous times or what?
Did he not correct you like a million times?
Name one.
The whole conversation.
Exactly.
He's been correcting you.
Crickets.
The whole conversation.
The whole conversation, dude.
Do you want to? He corrected you on the fact that we weren't arguing the methodology. He corrected you on the fact that we were asking you for proof and see if you could find a linguist that would back up your ridiculous claims.
And I said that shit is outside of our discussion.
You failed to do that. He corrected you on the fact that you couldn't find a way how Hebrew was introduced to America. So the only thing I can admit that I was wrong off only was the fact that I said BC instead of AD. Other than that. What else? What else can you pinpoint that I was wrong about in this entire discussion?
Exactly.
I'll wait.
In fact, put the video up so I could timestamp it.
No, I'll wait. No, you said he corrected me 10 times. Tell me the 10 times he corrected me.
Yeah, exactly.
When you said Hebrew wasn't extinct. When you said Hebrew, wasn't. Let me finish. When you said Hebrew was extinct, he corrected you on that.
Under the context, we all knew what he was talking about, but you want to nitpick because you're a little bitch.
He's a little fatty.
We all knew what he meant. We all knew what he meant by it. But because you want to be a little, because you don't know how to debate fairly, because
he doesn't know how to differentiate. Because I told him specifically in the last video, in this video specifically, I made the differentiation between Hebrew and
deflect. Listen, fellas.
You majored in
fellas. Can y'all hang up on me, please? Hang up on me like you
did before. Just leave.
You hang up on me like you did before.
Nah, bitch, leave. I'm not gonna give you the satisfaction running back to you and then saying that we kicked you out because you were right or some shit.
Yeah, he'll say that. They kicked me out, so I couldn't pass my claim.
I know you don't get no bitches and no women anyway, so you got nothing time.
Like that time he said he got muted when he was commenting.
That's why, mind you, Han was the one that kicked you out the last time. I didn't even want you to leave. I wanted you to continue embarrassing yourself the way you're doing now. You can leave on your own. I have nothing but time.
It was precious, fellas. Thank you for the invite. As usual, it was
you got beat up.
As usual, you got smacked around like a little
bit. Lick your wounds because
Go lick your wounds, man. Exactly. And Google Time in Anubis too, you dumb fuck.
Look in the mirror, man. You gotta.
All right, the retard left.
So who's all left?
Oh,
damn, y'all. Right, you still there?
Yeah, I gotta go to stick because I gotta go to Baltimore early in the morning for some business too, though.
Yeah, what's it like 3 o'clock in the morning over there, guys?
Yeah.
Yeah, you wake up late.
All right.
Because I was drinking a little bit and smoking a little bit. So.
All right, man. Hey, Rob, all good?
All right, man. We'll talk to you later.
All right, bro.
All right, peace. All right, wow. That was something.
Some bullshit. Fuck that fool.
That's why I didn't want to kick him. This is why, because he was gonna. If I would have kicked him, he would have ran to that little fucking group and said, "Ha ha ha! They kicked me because they couldn't handle me."
Yeah, just like he said he got muted. He said he got muted and he couldn't comment.
Because that's exactly what he did the last time when you kicked him. That's the first thing he said. Oh, ha ha ha! I'm the fucking I Hulk smash. They kicked me and they couldn't handle me and shit. Okay, well he's a little bitch. He got to leave on his own.
Well, that's, it's just a circular argument with him that.
Of course it is.
We're never gonna get it because he.
And bro, like you can't give him leeway and shit because he'll nitpick the stupidest shit and not fucking back up his argument.
And because he can't.
No, I felt he broke down when he tried to go back to as if I had asked him for a reference for a linguist that would support his methodology. Like I kept telling him, I'm not looking for a linguist that would support the methodology. I'm looking for a linguist that would specifically agree that there was a Hebrew input in Uto-Aztecan. That's where I felt like he would have to go back to the same thing. He said that was a moving the post fallacy. That's not moving the post at all.
No, he's playing a different game that we're playing, basically. Like I said, we're playing football. He's playing soccer, and the games we're not playing the same game.
Probably rugby.
He's playing tiddlywinks. We're playing football.
He was playing fucking cricket while we're playing fucking football, playing a completely different fucking sport.
And that's the same argument we had in Facebook about him trying to prove that the native tribes are there's a conspiracy to stop archaeology because the tribes don't want their ancestors being dug up, and he's looking at that as it's some sort of conspiracy that they don't want them to find out who those bones are because he thinks those bones are going to be Africans.
What, black bones?
Yeah, and so there's a conspiracy with the native tribes to stop archaeology, and we just kept going around and round and round.
It is in Americans, because in Mesoamerica they dig all that shit up.
Well, no, it was a tribe in Arizona, the Pima tribe. They didn't want some archaeological stuff done because they said it's not important. We know who we are, but basically it was their right to sovereignty.
Right.
Was what the issue was. Is they have a right to say we don't want our sites being dug up. They have that right as a sovereign nation under their tribal laws because they own the land. And if they don't want archaeologists coming in digging up their ancestors, they have every right. It wasn't that they're trying to hide something from. He was alluding that they're trying to hide the evidence. And he wouldn't say it, but it's clear he wants to prove that Africans are the first Americans. That's his exact quote. Mm-hmm. Africans are. That's how he got into our group. Because
that's the big problem between northern natives and southern natives. Because in Mesoamerica, they dig it up, and especially in El Salvador, there's a big problem with looting.
Well, yeah. Well, the reason why archaeology is more prevalent in Mesoamerica is because the areas that they were originally excavating, they were abandoned, and so they really didn't and they really the natives there didn't have a say so in the government. Here, the reason why there's not as much archaeology going on is because the tribes are still living on their tribal land,
Right.
and they're sovereign. So the government can't just come in and do what they want. They have to ask permission, and they have to work those archaeologists that do have permission. They have to work side by side with tribal officials, with tribal historians, with tribal liaisons, making sure that they do everything respectful, that they don't loot, and they don't damage, and that they put things back the right way, and they have to be done ceremoniously.
And they
So the issue
like
the issue was basically about tribal sovereignty, that he's trying to allude that there's a conspiracy to stop them from finding out who their ancestors are, and that's bullshit.
yeah, what he fails to realize that they see it as sacred.
Right. Well,
Right.
and his thing
And that would be an exception to the rule, because most oftentimes, I mean, before the authorities even made it a requirement for archaeologists to be asking for permission, before that they were just going up and down wherever they wanted to, period. So to say that there is a conspiracy now, like, this is a fairly recent thing that they have to go through, asking the tribes first and then going to court if they say no, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, there's the laws that have been passed generations ago that's the protocol that has to happen. If any construction dig, if there's bones, they have to call it in right now, and then they have to do check to see if these bones are modern, or if they're ancient. Then they have to follow, and then there's a whole big thing that's going on down here in California, down
That's the same
in San
thing
Diego.
when they digged up Kennewick, man.
Yeah, that happened too.
Yeah, well, the Kennewick man, that's how they were able to get away with studying him, because of his skull morphology. So they had already dug him up,
Right.
and basically the issue was that the natives, before they could do any DNA extraction on it, the natives had already filed the lawsuit that they had to give that shit back, right? I mean, I'm sorry, that they had to give the bones back, right? So the so the reason why the scientists were able to win the court case against the natives was because they were saying that because the skull morphology was Caucasoid, the natives couldn't really even say that it
Right.
was an ancestor of theirs, because the morphology didn't match. And so, sure
Makes
enough,
sense.
they did the testing after that, and despite his features, his phenotypes, the genotypes were native. So
Right.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
But
that's just that's a
Jamie,
marginal
Yeah,
methodology.
that's the difference between
yeah,
northern natives and southern natives. At least they
what's
have
that?
that. We don't.
Well,
Yeah, well,
exactly,
like Jamie said, I mean, on one hand, on one hand, is that, like, for example, a lot of Mayan sites were abandoned and stuff like that, right? Already, but I mean, in other areas, there's not really that's not I mean, there's not really the excuse, because some, like, for example, some Nahua peoples, like the Nahua people were at the height of their empire when the Spanish came. So so they would have theoretically still lived, you know what I'm saying, like they would have theoretically still had used those temples and such. But at that point I feel like the real issue in Mexico is not that. It's just that I mean, there's no formality period in Mexico. I mean, Mexico is a land where you can do so many
it's a free.
things. You know what I'm saying? Where, yeah, it's the free for
Yeah.
all thing. It's like that they're not asking them for shit. Like for example, like one thing that really is like in the Constitution, it has like special privileges for natives, like sovereignty and stuff, right? And that's an area of government and law. That's a area of legalities that you rarely see. Like, I don't know nobody that like that you don't see any natives tapping into. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just people don't know. And it's there. It's in the Constitution.
They know or just don't care.
Yeah, well, some don't care. I mean, and then on the other, it's like, even if it is there, it's like, that's a federal thing. Like locally, they got problems with, drug lords and all sorts of other shit. Where it's like, like you tell them, oh, in your constitution, you're technically sovereign, and it's like, oh, like good one, they got real issues too, or bigger issues. I mean,
Right.
uh,
True. True.
it's like it's just a shame, It is what it is.
Yeah, seems like Mexico is like literally the Wild Wild West.
Well,
Yep.
especially because you got to realize like the Olmecs and all that that was getting in the 20s and 30s, and so it was even
Yeah.
less. It was even less laws back then. So and the fact that Mexico City is now there's all kinds of digs in Mexico City. That's because they're finding stuff right now. I mean, the Spanish came over and built on top of the city, and now they're wanting to. They're realizing that they kind of made a mistake. They shouldn't have done that, and so now they're digging up the city
Yeah.
and finding all these different different monuments and things like that. And I guess the people are for it because it's restoring
The history.
their past. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
even the
Question:
Mexicans
isn't
can even
the
look at
DF
that and say, yeah,
sinking?
this is our past.
Right. Right. I agree with you.
Yo,
What was
isn't
that,
the
Khalid?
So yeah, but here
yeah? I wanted to ask
the
real quick.
tribes
Isn't
here
the
never
DF
lost that.
sinking? El DF,
The
isn't
what?
it the DF like El DF? Isn't it
I can,
sinking?
Yes, I think
what's
it is.
thinking?
The DF.
The
Oh.
definite. It
Oh.
was big
There's some kind of thing going on.
Yeah.
on top of a lake.
Yeah.
The
Like they
lake
built
that's
it on top of a lagoon or some shit, right?
Yeah.
yeah, it
It
was
is a lake.
Lake
A lake.
Texcoco.
Yeah. Yep.
Mm.
Yeah. And it
It is.
supposedly it was made
It's important.
artificially, right?
Right.
Like
Yeah.
I have no how the hell did they do that? Like
Uh,
that's fucking insane.
yeah.
Kings of our
The fact
ancestors.
that they were. Yeah.
Like I wonder if they built it on top of any fossils or remnants of
If you look
like
at some
culture.
aqueducts, more advanced than the ones they had in Rome.
Okay.
What was that? What was more events?
The aqueducts.
The aqueducts that they built there.
Um,
I mean, that makes sense, but
well, I don't
it,
even know what are aqueducts, like the water channels.
like the
Yeah.
Yeah.
irrigation system and shit.
They even found water channels under Pacao, Palenque. I think this is
Oh,
like
I heard about that. I heard about that.
Yeah.
a year and a half.
Yeah, I heard about that.
Well, we got to realize that
Yeah, there's so many things.
most Mesoamerican continuously built. That's a common thing that we built our sites on top of older sites. So there's gonna be that. Yeah.
Right, and even
Yeah,
they
yeah.
even built Chichen Itza. They built it on top of a cenote.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey,
Damn.
Jamie, what tribe are you from?
I
Hey,
on my
could you
mom's side
tell us a little bit
is
about the history?
on my mom she's Tlingit in German. On my dad we're Pueblo and we have Mesoamerican roots, Tlaxcala, from
Uh,
Zacatecas, and then my ancestors moved from Mexico to New Mexico, where we mixed in with the Tano Tewa people. So basically, Mesoamerican, Indigenous, and Pueblo and Tlingit. Those are my
okay. What
my
was
tribal
that
names.
third one? What is it?
Basically Pueblo. We're Tewa people. We're Tewa speaking people. If you go to New Mexico, there's 19 pueblos, and you have the
Right.
Tewa, the Tiwa, and the Towa. That
Really post something about that. Saying that there's a strong connection of Nahua in New Mexico, something like that.
no, well, that's a misconception that the pueblos are not are Udo-Aztecan people. We're not. The pueblos are not Udo-Aztecan. The Hopi are Udo-Aztecan, but
Yeah,
culturally we have similarities to the Hopi, but linguistically we're not from that
so what's the
linguistic family.
What's the brunch called?
Sorry?
What's the brunch that you get?
Tano.
Tano.
Yeah, we're Tano. So
They like
Iwa, Toa,
to the no Apache.
No, Apache are Athabascans.
Oh, okay.
Apache are related to the Navajos.
Oh.
They're Athabascan.
Yeah, man, I've been trying to study more on my northern relatives too. It's really interesting.
And who's that?
It's always good to learn.
No, he just means in general.
Yeah, in general.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, there's a lot of information on both sides. Both sides of the border. So
yeah, man.
You said Trinky or something like that.
Tlingit from Alaska.
Tlingit. Oh, okay.
Tlingit. Yeah, they're from
Alaska.
Yeah.
And you said that's from your dad's side?
No, my mom.
Oh, that's pretty cool, man. German. Oh, your mom. So Tlingit, okay.
Yeah, so she was her grandma was from Alaska, and then they moved to California. So that's why if you see on my profile picture or Northwest Coast. So yeah, we basically go by our mother's clan. So through the Tlingit,
that's dope.
I follow that, but I'm more actually.
So what are you connected to?
I'm more connected to New Mexico because I never lived with my mom. So, but I'm more connected to New Mexico because that's where all my family's from, and I've lived there, and I've done more studies in that as well. But it's being, in fact, Mesoamerica. Learning about my Mesoamerican roots is something that I've just now incorporated the last decade of trying to learn. But so for 20 years, I didn't even bother with that because that was real foreign to me, being from New Mexico. So
right.
Because being from New Mexico, there's kind of this little idea that sometimes we draw that border even though we don't want to. Sometimes our mind tends to do that. So I was not concerned with my Mesoamerican roots at one point in time until it just became more prevalent. I married a Mayan woman, and that kind of opened that up.
So thoughts on natives on thinking that the quote unquote Latinos are waking up?
Yeah. So my so-called Latino side woke up. But in that process, we've discovered that the Mesoamerican side is from Tlaxcala. So
right.
Yeah, it's like
do you ever go on forums and everybody's talking shit? Why did the Tlaxcaltecas betray us?
Oh,
no, that shit.
That one guy, what's his name? Most High.
Yeah.
Most High, and some other Mexican guy. He went on live, and they were talking about that. They were talking about how he mentioned Alicia was a sellout, and then they went as far as talking about Tlaxcalas, how they sold out, and I'm like, we're like, how did they sell out? The Aztecs they were their enemies. The Mexicas were enemies. They didn't sell out. So this idea that they sold out is bullshit.
Yeah, every tribe.
Well, I mean, they consider it because they joined with they made a short term alliance with the Spaniards. But if you know the history and the context behind that, the Aztecs were no friendly folk either. You know what I'm saying? Like there's a reason. There's a reason, right? There's a reason why the surrounding tribes allied with Cortez.
Yeah,
and yet they got.
They viewed the Spaniards as liberators.
Right.
They liberated them from the tyrants, and I don't.
And even then, yeah, exactly. And even then, I mean, for most part, like for the Tlaxcaltecas specifically, it wasn't like they were buddy with the Spanish either. It was just a political move.
Yes.
And actually, if it wasn't for Cortez's intelligence, that he found a way in one battle in particular to stall the end of the fight, because he was afraid that and which would probably have been what would have happened, was that the Tlaxcaltecas, as soon as they would have been done beating the Aztecs, they probably would have killed his ass too.
Sure.
So so yeah, it was Cortez. There was a particular battle that I read about, that he managed to stall so that he could have backup for when he had to be on the way back out of Mexico City. Because if not, then he was afraid that on the way back, the Tlaxcaltecas would have people waiting to kill him
Yeah,
on the other side.
and left and went straight.
What's
Yeah,
that?
He went to first, and then he went to back to Spain.
Yeah.
Yeah, but even when he left, that's when his second in command, Pedro Alvarado, took over, and that's when he went further down south to Guatemala and El Salvador.
Ah, okay. Yeah.
Yeah, Pedro Alvarado,
Yeah.
man, that guy was evil man too, just like Fernando Cortez.
yeah.
Or even
Yeah.
worse.
Bloodthirsty for gold and riches, and
I mean, shit.
Yeah.
They
that's all
were
they
all
want. Well,
they were all Columbus, Bartholomew, Cortez. All of them had their alternative.
Pedro.
yeah,
Yeah.
their main objective was land, because their Christian ideology, everything revolves around land ownership. That's basically how you acquire wealth.
Right.
And so
Yeah.
what they also the Tlaxcalas, they also were willingly to align themselves with Spanish, also, because the Tlaxcalas they only had small amount of land, because basically the Mexicas were all around them. So this was an opportunity for them also to acquire land by by marrying with the Spanish leaders.
Right.
So the Spanish leaders, they realized that the Tlaxcalans had nobles. So basically, they married into noble families, and that's how they were able to acquire land and move forward north into areas like Zacatecas, and then even go further into New Mexico. When the first settlers settled into New Mexico, they were Spanish. They were Spanish men and Mesoamerican women, and
Right, and
so
Mm.
that's how they
that's how they
acquired all the land north of Mexico City. Was
right.
so I laugh when all these Chicanos say I'm Mexica, when the reality is the most likely their family lineage is mostly
Tlaxcalteca.
starts from Tlaxcaltecas, because they're the ones that created the mestizos.
Right.
The Mexicas,
Right.
not so much. Most of them were wiped out.
Yeah, they got wiped. But I believe the Puropecha were the
Yeah.
only ones that didn't get conquered in that region.
Right. Well, they didn't. If you're from the area, but there's Chicanos going around saying that they're Mexicas, but they're probably more Purepecha than anything.
Yeah. I mean, that's something that the Neo Mexica movement, a lot of them. I mean, it's unfortunate, and I get it. Some of them can't find tribal ties. Period. So they kind of just go with the
The Mexica thing.
the default setting. Yeah.
That's a good way of explaining it.
Yeah.
Default.
Yeah, the default setting. Hey, Jamie, do you have any particular state and or federal recognitions or anything like that?
Actually, I'm in the process right now of getting my recognition with the Tlingit right now. So
With okay, bet.
with my Tlingit tribe, yeah. So right now
Right,
I'm not,
right.
but I'm
And,
in the
and I would
process of getting
imagine
it.
it's more lenient, right? Dealing with Canadian, or that would be Canada, right?
No, it's Alaska.
Um,
It's Alaska.
oh, it's Alaska. Oh, that's right, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, with Alaska, tribal claims than in any other part of the states, right? Because a lot of people in many parts of the states, they fight tooth and nail for trying to get recognition, and they have to go through all these loopholes and so on and so
Yeah,
forth.
it's a process that takes place. You have to basically you have to show who you're related to. I know
Right.
my family that I'm related to. It's just I haven't done it. So it shouldn't be a problem because my my great grandmother was well known. So once they moved to California, see the Clinkets didn't do tribal enrollment memberships until the 1950s. They were way behind the rest of the tribes in the U.S. The tribal enrollments were done in the 1850s. So that's when the tribal enrollment began, where the government started giving, in conjunction with tribes, forming the tribal governments, and then the tribal governments, where you got basically enrollment numbers. That happened in the 1850s, but in Alaska, because Alaska didn't become a state until the 20th century.
Right.
So none of that took place. So my ancestor, who my great grandma already had moved to California before they had any tribal census, before they had any tribal numbers. So that's the only reason why I don't have it, because that was never given to her. So had she,
but you can prove the lineage.
Yeah, I can prove the lineage because it's through birth certificate. So,
so
had she not moved, of course I wouldn't be here, because my dad, obviously met my mom here in California. But had she not moved, and let's just say I'd be recognized, because I'd be there. I'd be in Alaska. So
see, the issue between the North and the South, we are like really limited to those.
Yeah, and that's it's just, well, I mean,
well, it's because if anybody even started claiming native, you'd have to make half of Latin America sovereign. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, exactly.
All of it. All of it. I mean, it might as well be all the you end up with the same countries that you have today.
Yeah. Like, well, see, the problem is Mesoamerica and Latin America had basically a 350-year oppression where nobody wanted to. They wanted to do away with being indigenous. Where in the States, when it didn't start, natives didn't start hating themselves and denying themselves as natives. First, they really couldn't do it because they were given tribal census. So they put them on reservations, and you had no choice but to identify. So as the tribal census has actually enabled tribes to maintain an indigenous identity. It wasn't until the turn of the century, coming into the 20th century, did natives actually not want to be native anymore. But in Mexico, that was obviously not the case. The second you were able to claim other than native to get treated better, you did it. So it was very easy for mestizos to not want to claim native, because all you had to do was stop speaking your language and not wear native clothes, and you're not
right. And plus, in Mexico, there's a lot of racism, especially up on the north side.
Sure.
Yeah. Well, you got all those social pressures too, and then lastly, I mean, at this point, I guess maybe not prior, but at this point, definitely is like, okay, so you claim native, and it's like I said, like you have that thing in the Constitution that I feel like so many people can be taken advantage of, that they don't. Only reason why I haven't delved deeper into it is because, I mean, in my particular scenario, since I'm here in the U.S., I don't get anything out of that, so that's why I haven't gotten into the whole legal studies thing. But I just wish more natives out there would become aware of that and use it to their advantage.
What specifically?
It's a passage in the Constitution that basically says if you're native, you're sovereign, and basically that they can have their own autonomy. You know?
Oh, so basically, is that what the the Moors are trying to use that angle? Is it?
Much.
Oh no, definitely not. And I hope they never ever fucking find out about this because their dumbass will probably try and say
Yeah.
some shit talking about, oh, that was for us, that was for,
Right.
you know, but but yeah,
That's
it's
funny.
it's an actual thing out there, you know.
But I got a question, Jamie. From where do the Clinkets descend from? Like, do you know?
Tlinkits are also Athabascan, like the Navajo and the
Oh,
Apache, and Tlinkits. Um, of course, our oral traditions say we've always been in Alaska, but we know that Tlinkits also know that they have relatives on the other side of the water,
yeah.
Siberia.
Right.
So,
No, West
I,
Africa. West Africa.
yeah, right, West Africa.
Right from the Congo.
Right
They
from
got
the
relatives
Yeah,
in the Congo.
so uh, Tlinkits, but there's archaeological evidence that indigenous people have been living in Alaska for you know for 15,000 years or more. So the Athabascan language, linguistically and going back, I believe it's the linguistic is Nod Dene, and I do believe they've pinpointed a few ethnic groups in Siberia that speak that they have basically related their language to Nod Dene also.
Mm.
Yeah,
So
they have.
yeah, so that basically
So they were able to show
aligns itself with the migration of coming from Asia,
Yep.
which I have no issue with it. At one time, 25 years ago, I couldn't stand the idea of this idea that our ancestors came from Asia, and I was
Right.
totally into this idea that we were always from here. And I've gotten older, and I've looked at the science, and I've had to come to terms with that. And I realized where that comes from. It comes from this idea that there's two things. One thing is that this idea that that was invented by the white man, and therefore the white man lies, and they have an agenda of why they want to tell us that we don't come from here. Well, I've come to realize that they don't need that agenda to take the land. They did that already without
Right.
without any knowledge of the Bering Strait. So
Right.
so
Exactly.
that
Exactly.
so that theory
It's
was
like I'm sorry to interrupt you, but it's like when the pseudos say the abos say that you know, they had to do this legality and they had to do this paper and do that
yeah
to steal our true identity. Like,
yeah
motherfucker,
the,
they don't have to go through all that shit to take your
exactly
shit. They'll tell you we
exactly.
did it and
They're
what,
gonna say
bitch. You know.
they're gonna say we're gonna steal your land, and they basically did. They in the back in the 17 1800s, they basically made declarations, and they said we're going to take your land. You better move. You better get, or you're going to die.
I mean,
And
in my people's case, it wasn't even like you're gonna move. It's like, give me your shit. Like,
Yeah, basically. So
like,
so I gave up this that fight of we're always here, and then back then I was a creationist, and then once I started um, letting go of my creationism, I started really following science in its true form, and realizing that the evidence was just too overwhelming.
Yeah.
One of the things that also kind of allowed me to really relinquish that that idea that that old belief that I had to hold on to, that we were always here, was when I really thought about it from a perspective like this. Was if you subscribe to the out of Africa theory, and you understand that man walked out of Africa, whatever it is, 70,000, 100,000, 200,000 years ago, whatever it is, they determined man walked out of Africa and populated the rest of the globe, but in order for man to get to Siberia and adapt in Siberia, live in Siberia for 20,000 years, and then decide to walk across the Bering Straits into the Americas, and then populate the Americas and form all the thousands of tribes that are here all the way down to the tip of South America, through the islands, the lower Antilles and all that.
Right.
In order for us to make that journey, the resilience that it shows for who we are as a people, to 500 years later after European colonialism, to realize that we made that journey. There was scientists say that there was just a handful of people that came through the ice-free corridor. Those 2 or 3 waves of people that came through, it was a very low population that made it, and that population exploded and created millions of people in the Americas. That's a testament to our resilience as human beings. Well, the Abos will say that we're recessive degenerates.
Right.
They look at recessive genes and this and that as negative, when really these are adaptations for survival, which means that makes it, I don't want to say we're superior to anybody, but that makes that does say a lot about who we are. Our ancestors, they survived under the harshest, longest period of time.
Or in isolation for thousands of years too.
Yeah, and then through isolation. So, and then we were able to develop our individual tribal ethnicities, cultures, language, sciences, arts, and to create the diversity that we have. And then the proof is when we, in the archaeological evidence with the pyramids and so-called pyramids, temples. It's truly amazing. So I wish more of our indigenous people would wake up to this, to the Bering Straits, and be proud about it.
Right.
And be proud that those are our relatives over there, and we came over here and we kicked ass.
Yeah, a lot of
for sure. I mean, so it seems like it goes back to like how the Abos feel like none of this would have been it's disrespectful how they feel like none of this would have been possible without like some kind of like African input.
Oh, it's totally
it's the same difference as the white man. It's the same difference.
They don't see it that way, though.
Yeah, it's what Eurocentrics have been doing to Africa for a long time. That
with the Hamitic hypothesis,
right?
That it had to take white blacks.
Right. Only white blacks could have been possible. Could have been smart enough to create the civilizations that you see in North Africa.
Right. So for them to do that and to say that to us is the same thing as white people saying that aliens had to build our temples. It's like we're not to do that when archaeologists know better, when experts know better, that they've already determined that our technology, despite having the wheel and despite having iron, that we were as technology as advanced as anybody in the world at the time of Columbus discovering. We were Stone Age people with technology. Even though we were able to do the things that we did under the circumstance, no beast of burden, but we were able to cultivate corn, bean, and squash, and those things feed the world today.
Right. That our ancestors invented the wheel, we just didn't have like the big animals to.
Yeah, and so we didn't have the beast of burden to create the kind of societies that they had in Europe and in Asia and in Africa, because we didn't have that, but yet there was millions of us here.
Right. We just had it on power.
So what does that say? And I think this may be a little pseudo, but that genetic code in indigenous people to work the land and to survive, I think it survives in today. And you see that the hardest workers in the
are Mexicans.
Are Mexicans.
It's true, undeniable.
Undeniable. I mean, I have a buddy of mine, Augustine. He works for the gas company, and he says he's Apache and Mexican. And he says the ones that don't get tired and work all day without a break are the Mexicans, and the blacks and the whites and everybody else they get worked under the table. And it's a fact. And I think that has a lot to do with our genetic makeup in in our survival and how we've been working the land and how we've been just
I mean,
persevering.
it is what it is. Everybody, like it's everybody has a thing to be proud of. I mean,
Yeah,
shit. Even the Europeans. You know what I'm saying? It's like
sure, of
they
course they
did
do.
all that they did. Of course they do, right? Like, and those motherfuckers are starting to know it in 2018. So,
Yeah,
like, they
yeah.
start.
Everybody has their accomplishments, and for anybody to go around and discredit people's accomplishments and to try to make yourself look better is just ridiculous. Uh, Africans have their accomplishments, but
Right.
the problem with abos is that they buy into Eurocentric ideologies.
Paradigms.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the paradigms because they their most recent ancestor, which are West Africans, to go to a further ancestor, the Nubians and Egyptians, that go back further because they buy into this idea that that they were more advanced because they had pyramids and technology, and that's basically
Right.
of Eurocentrism that discredits any type of society that is a hunter and gatherer society, that you are deemed more primitive and savage like. So that is in my opinion, the reason why so many abos or Afrocentrics they bypass West Africa and they go straight to Egypt, and I believe that
Yeah.
is a learned behavior from Eurocentrism.
They're ashamed
Right.
of Africa, and
Yeah,
it's
they're
sad
ashamed of
because
them. And even those that are pro-Africa are still tend to do that. You see people, I'm pro-African, but yet they're talking about Egypt. It's like, why aren't you talking
right,
about
you have no fucking connections
your most
there.
recent ancestor that you can
Right.
go?
Yeah.
They have a living language. They got a culture. They got dances. They got food. But you're going to Egypt. I don't get it. It's
Right,
two
Egypt,
thousand
Nubia,
miles.
anything in East Africa is fine, but the minute you get to like a Bantu
Yes.
Yoruba Igbo society, it's
Right.
like
Oh, why you want me to be a booty scratcher? Like what,
right,
Yeah.
man?
we need
Like
Exactly.
even
African booty
saying those things,
booty
or a
scratcher.
spear chucker.
even saying,
Yeah.
yeah,
Spear
bro. It's
chucker. You're
like
right. Yeah.
there's yeah, yeah, and they're so
It,
disrespectful. Do you realize when you say those things, you're gonna have to eat your words later when you finally ponder the fact that you are in fact West
yeah.
African? You know what
When
I'm
you
saying? Like
finally
they be
break down
talking
to pay
so much
$100
shit.
You
to
really
get a
think the
deal,
nineties
and
guys
you're going to realize
know that
that
they are?
those are
They know deep
you are the
inside.
booty scratcher.
Yeah,
So
like,
Right.
Deep inside, when they go to sleep at night, they know that they're of African descent. They could do all this fucking Facebook thugging and all that shit. But at the end of the day, they know inside that they have primarily Western African roots. It's just
Yeah.
that whole mental slavery and colonial mentality to deny
Yeah.
because you feel like it might be primitive, which is
yeah,
hilarious
Right.
because at least West Africa had iron, which the
yeah,
Americas,
Yeah.
did not.
Yeah.
So
sure,
it's
true.
like,
Exactly.
sure.
which is
By the
We had
boatload.
we had
By the
iron here.
boatload.
We had iron ores. We just didn't have any use for them
we have any use
Yeah.
for.
because
Right.
because
And then
because
America, they
And
just use
that's
of
the thing. It goes back to the use thing. And so if West Africans did not did not populate the earth, it's because there was no reason to leave.
Right.
You know what
yeah,
I'm saying? It's like, why would
yeah.
they leave when they
There's
got all the
an article that I
resources?
They had
read
all the
that
resources.
talks about that we could because Indigenous Americans were well versed in metallurgy. We were coppersmiths and we were goldsmiths. That there was no reason for why weren't we um, ironsmiths? Well, the reason why
Hmm.
is because our uh, abundance of obsidian that was found throughout the Americas,
Yep.
and because obsidian
Yep.
was a huge one of the most important trade items coming out of Mexico, and
not
basically
trade.
there's found as far north as like Maine, New York area. That's rainbow obsidian from only found in Mexico. So that obsidian was traded up and down the continent, and so there was no need for forging iron because, as we all know, the sharpest earth is obsidian. So
Yep.
it was readily available. There was an overabundance of it where there was no need to go to steel.
Right. So much so that when the Spaniards compared their swords to the obsidian weapons of the Mexica, they themselves said that they were just as good, if not better. So
right, and they did a thing. I think they did a one of those warrior TV shows where they tested that out, and it's proven to be it was a formidable weapon against the Spaniards. So
mhm.
it wasn't like it was an inferior. Obsidian was not inferior. It was easily replaceable. As if your weapon got damaged, you popped another one in there, and it was so it served its purpose. There was no need for iron. So the fact that iron was not here is the
Yeah.
nail in the coffin that Africans weren't here. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
True.
It's the nail in the coffin,
Yeah.
and nobody can.
Yeah.
I've asked the question a million times to a million abos. When you can explain to me how Africans did not bring iron here, because if you understand human beings 500 years ago, especially the male human being, no man will leave his home without a weapon 500 years ago.
That's true.
Yep.
I don't care what man. I don't care if you're from a Viking. I don't care if you're from Europe. I don't care if you're from Asia. You're going to have
Yeah.
some sort of sword, some sort of knife, some sort of weapon that's going. Here, you had the warriors had spear, arrow, spears, and uh, uh,
And
flint
clubs.
daggers.
They
Flint
also
daggers.
had
So
clubs too, like
yeah, clubs.
Nah, bro,
So
I got these hands.
yeah, so you're going to tell me that Africans sailed over here without any weapons, and you're going to tell me that the Africans came over
They had
here?
them hands, bro.
Yeah, right. They're dropping dogs on people. Um, so
horses
are you
too.
going to tell me that they didn't find iron here, and or they came here with weapons, and then they said, yeah, this is from iron, and then they have iron
Yes.
over here. We just don't use it. Well, then they would have said, "Oh, okay. Well, let me show you how to use this iron." Oh, you guys are doing what we do to gold. We know how to do that. Common
Yeah.
sense tells you that we would have iron then.
Yeah. And if I
Yeah.
to
So
back it up.
the fact that there's no iron in the Americas is the nail in the coffin. I'm sorry. Until someone can
Yeah.
why professors like Van Sertima could not think that far ahead is mind-boggling.
Oh no, bro! Look, Van Sertima. I've read his book time and time again, and I clearly see deception there. Like the man knew better, and because, for example, like just the manner in which he wrote the book in the first place, the fact that he was so poetic about it. Why be
Yeah,
so poetic? Why the need to arouse people's emotions
yeah, I
if
agree.
you feel so confident
I
about your
agree.
shit?
Well, you're
If you
gonna
feel so confident, write an academic journal,
sure.
publish it academically
Uh,
about it, but he didn't want to do that because he knew he would get that 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 ass ripped apart by peer review.
I
Right.
agree. Well, then you got like Afrocentrics, like that guy Mudiwa, who claimed, oh, he 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 was intellectually honest because he really felt. I think it's bullshit.
Well,
They want to.
especially with that quote that he said, where
Sure.
the no African American can be a healthy man, knowing that his history starts with slavery.
Right.
The fact that you would say that
I
your
agree.
history starts with slavery,
I agree.
It's
it
self-defeating
says it all. Says it all.
It speaks volumes.
It's
It does.
yeah.
It speaks volumes.
because
But
it's that whole thing to make African Americans proud or proud of a history prior. It's like that whole thing, like let's be proud of a history prior to slavery, but your history prior to slavery does not start in the Americas.
right.
It starts in Africa,
Right. Right.
and it's
And
just
and that,
it's a misdirection.
Well, it's very
yeah.
sad, and
Yes.
I feel bad Afrocentrics buy into that, and I feel sad that the Abos have taken that and totally twisted it and ran with it into their own narrative now.
It's
I feel
disrespectful to
bad
like
for
people.
for African Americans that have resorted to it. Thankfully, there are those that the few that battle with us in these abo sites. To name a few, Joseph, Lawrence Lane, and a few others, Ali Mailu and those folks like that.
Allen, yeah, a bunch of them. Lumumba.
There's quite a few that are jumping on board lately, but for the last 2 years, man, it was like pulling teeth, trying to get some black folks to stand up against the Avos, and I just couldn't understand why. And then until Lawrence Lane had it told me privately, he goes, because they don't want to get called a coon. And that's kind of sad that you can't speak for truth in fear of getting deemed a sellout or a coon. And I feel bad. I mean, we experience that in the native world all the time, but I stand up all the time. I mean, I'll tell people, stop buying into creationism, stop buying into it, and I get called an apple all the time from natives. I don't care. I'm going to speak truth.
And it's a thing. Southern natives, we get called Malincas or
Bandidos. Exactly. So
you mentioned the crossing from Beringia once, and you white man science too.
Exactly.
Like they're the same thing.
So we get it.
You're a hybrid,
the same shit,
or whatever the fuck that.
I don't care. I'll stand up.
And it's even bad because for us that have Caribbean ties, like me, I'm more African than anything else. So for us who have Caribbean ties, we don't have that identity crisis in the Caribbean because we understand our culture. We know what we're tied to.
True.
Yeah.
We know where we come from. It's mostly you see these African Americans they got hit the hardest culturally and linguistically, go on hard, and the minute you tell them, the minute you even try to exceed, you're dealing with people who are so uneducated that the minute you explain to them that you identify as an Afro-Latino, they automatically fucking connect you to, oh, well, then you Latinos, white man, so you think you're white man. And it's like, no, you stupid motherfucker. Afro-Latinos are just people in the Caribbean who are primarily triracial. They have a little bit of indigenous heritage, European heritage, African heritage, and have a Latino culture, which is a melting pot of all three because we had no choice on the island.
Well, it's so different than African Americans being African, but being American culturally.
Right.
If you think about it, African Americans, quote unquote, are just as white as anybody else.
Yeah, if not more, because they have lost. Unfortunately, they have lost their cultural ties to their
tribal.
Africa. But they think that it's the same thing in the Caribbean, and it's like, no, motherfucker, like no.
Right.
Like, don't put us in the same boat with y'all niggas. Like, we still have ties to our African heritage. Like, that shit exists in every day.
Like, literally different boat, okay? Like,
literally a different boat.
Like, put your ass up there to, like, Virginia and shit. They stop in the Dominican Republic. Like, we still keep our shit and we practice our shit. Like, that's y'all. Like, y'all do that over there. Don't even listen to that.
Yeah. And even then, the sad thing is when they misrepresent the parts of the U.S. that do have some of that African culture still intact, even right, like the Gullah Geechee and Louisiana culture, and not Louisiana culture, because that started with the French too, but there is parts that most definitely have a stronger input of African.
Even Louisiana, it's a Creole too. Like it's a mix.
It's Creole. Yeah,
it's Creole. Like you have a mix of French and African influences, so it's there. Sure. It's just that they don't see it.
Shit, there's a place called Congo Square.
Congo Square. There you go.
I mean, it's right there. It's. But then you got people in Louisiana, Chief Warhorse, that lady with the.
That dumb bitch.
I mean, come on. I mean, she made a statement in a YouTube video that I watched. She says, I don't know where I get my complexion from. Is it from my African ancestors or my Choctaw ancestors? It's like, are you kidding me? You're as dark as an African. Your Choctaw ancestor was never your skin color. I don't care what the black and white photos look like. they were never your color, and if they were, it's because they were mixed already.
Yeah.
So it's delusion. In the majority of abos, they're just stuck on skin color, and I just
ignore. Yeah, like it shows their low IQ when they like. Well, I've gone with this over and over again with Khalid. Like when they say things like melanated, fucking carbonated. Like what the fuck are you talking about? Like
they act like the fucking melanin is like freaking indestructible and shit. Like it's gonna stop
the melanin theory. Well, the thing is they use that as this way to identify themselves as a way of being superior, as if less melanated
racial superiority.
Yeah, because if you're less melanated, you're not as pure.
Well, yeah, because they think that less melanated people are recessive, like as if they understand what that means. Like you're recessive, like
ridiculous. Well, then I guess the same people that they praise the
team
in Africa,
Imhotep.
They must be recessive because they're not very dark.
Like I'm a pretty dark motherfucker, and even I know that if I go outside in the middle of the street, my melanin is not going to protect me from getting hit by a car. But these niggas think that the melanin is like the indestructible titanium, like as if it's protected from all kinds of shit, like
some super magical power.
Yeah, I had somebody say that the reason why Africans are so superior in athletics is because they're melanin.
Oh, come on,
because your dark skin makes you run faster.
Or is it that black people?
It's ridiculous.
Like they think that the melanin is.
But going back
in cancer.
Right. But we're going back to like the disconnect from the culture. Well, that's why I appreciate more groups like NBK. I don't know if you guys have seen them on YouTube. New Black Knowledge Group.
No.
And like the team that I belong to myself, Team Osiris, and don't let the name fool you, you know, and also Dagger Squad, like teams like that they actually they touch and they try to put the African civilizations the West African civilizations at the forefront so that people can get to know them more, because I feel like part of the problem is that, you know, especially like with this, like we focus so much on the negative, right? And so it takes away from like, so like if they need to see the value, you know what I'm saying? Like if you can put out the value in West Africa, then this will work itself. Like we won't need to fight as hard because they'll automatically see the good of West African civilizations.
It'll start being over. That's what happened with that one guy. He always comes in and he says Gola G all the time.
Oh, Fable.
Fable, yeah, he was a big abo, and Mark Scott destroyed him one time, and he got so frustrated that he made a whole video about Mark Scott. He went on, but then that was a year ago. But he's not an abo anymore. And Mark Scott finally broke his will and finally realized that he was buying into bullshit.
Well, Mark Scott had me rolling in the first video when Humbalam was doing his interview with Omar. It was like, "You're stupid. Shut up, fucker."
Who was saying that? Who was saying that? Gola? The Gola?
Mark.
Oh, Mark Scott. Yeah.
That shit had me crying. Like
Mark Scott's got no chill.
He don't.
We both, man.
That's funny.
Like the man.
What was that?
He'd be posting some funny shit, like he'll crop his face into some fucking picture or some shit like that.
Yeah, that dude's the king of memes. That shit be having me rolling.
Funny.
Yeah, but so the abo stuff's got to stop, man. In my opinion, we need more African Americans to come on board and check them, and
so that
so that the natives can just take a back seat to it.
I just wish we could find a competent abo, like someone league smarter than a Mars stupid ass that would be willing to come.
Well, unfortunately, those will never be on Facebook except for Clyde, and Clyde is too much of a coward to jump on here. But the only ones who can at least have a conversation with us on this level would be Dr. Imhotep, Butler, Clyde, all these book writers. I want to see the fucking book writers get on here. You know what I'm saying? Rashidi, yeah, all the motherfuckers.
Rashidi's not really an abo. He's a
Amazon pamphlet writers because I don't consider them scholars.
Yeah, none of them are scholars.
Yeah, he's right.
They all have some kind of discrepancy in their credentials.
Clyde Winters is mental.
And Rashid,
yes.
They created their own schools or something. So their credentials are suspect.
Right.
Yeah.
I unfortunately I don't see any of.
Fucking Rashidi got his honor because there's a thing called honorary doctorate, right?
Right.
Where a doctor gives you the title of doctor, but you don't really have a PhD. It's non-official or whatever. But anyway, but I get to find out he got it from Amen Ra University or some shit like that. Like,
exactly.
What the fuck?
Oh shit.
But hilarious, man.
But abos don't care when you bring that up.
Right, they don't give a fuck. Oh no, you're being racist because you don't like our black scholars.
Yeah, you just don't like it because we're black.
Yeah,
everything is white. Or if you agree with the like how you guys said earlier, like you're a coon, you're this, you're that. That's why, like, even
that's the thing. They go with the pseudo black scholars, but they disrespect fucking the black paleontologists, black geneticists, black evolutionary biologists. Dr. Kittles, yeah.
Or they'll go with the pseudo bullshit, and then at the same time refer to 18th century, 19th century real racist European fucking so-called scholars for their talking.
Right.
Yeah, let's just take Verrazano's word over a geneticist.
Right.
Because Verrazano said that they have dark skin, unlike the Ethiopians. Well, I guess they're all Ethiopians then.
Right, like it's the way they draw stupid conclusions. I mean, they'll take the parts that sound good to them, but when they look at when Verrazano said that they look like Orientals,
forget about that.
Ignore that one. Ignore that one. Ignore that one. And imagine though, the problem that like out in this group, the final battle, we at least get these motherfuckers to argue with us. There's 40,000 people in the African Americans Ain't African group who have that as their bubble, who have that as their circle. They don't come out of there to argue with anybody, and they constantly have that reaffirmation thing where they school each other with these memes. They don't even cross-reference them. They do nothing. They just feed each other memes.
And they kick us out as soon as someone able to get in it.
Right.
As soon as you say something,
right. Which is what I was telling Khalid the other day. That's the amazing part, that it has 40,000 members even with filtering, right? Because they do immediately kick out naysayers and so that means that there's 40,000 people who actually go, they're deep into that.
Are you telling me is that a legit number? Because about a year ago it was 2,000.
No, I was just asking.
What was that?
Do you think we'd be able to sneak in there and run a live?
Is it 40,000?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's like 40, bro.
It was 20,000 a year ago.
That's how fucking sad it is. Like,
well, you know what's sad is that that video. Some guy made a video where it says African American 98% of African Americans are really indigenous people, and it's like a big old long slideshow video. And I looked at the. I made a meme about it one time. I looked at the amount of shares that it had. We're in the millions.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. So that right there. So that's when I came to the realization that we unfortunately we don't have the resources. No one from our side, the native side, just in general, has been able to come up with enough counter media to counter that.
Yeah.
Enough. All we have is memes and debates, but we really need to somebody because I don't know if they're getting funded or what, because some of these videos that they make are pretty well done. They got websites, they got all kinds of stuff.
They definitely got the social media game on lock.
Well, yeah,
they're marketing experts. They're marketing strategists.
They got Pinterest down. I mean, they own Pinterest. You just look up anything Indian, and all kinds of black stuff's coming up.
They even
Black Indian this, Black Indian that.
You know how like it even went down to Mexico.
Wait, what?
Yeah, they even have tours. The Nation of Islam went down.
Yeah. They're down.
No. I didn't know that.
That goes down there. Rashidi goes down there. The NOI goes down there.
Yep.
Putting tours down in the Olmec country.
Yep.
It's disgusting.
Our own people are falling for that bullshit.
Yeah.
Yep. And their response is,
they grab the average the average fucking guide to say yes. They were African. Yeah, I guess. Like fucking.
Sure, give me $10. I'll tell you the yes.
Right.
It was like, yeah, sure, African, bro.
No, but shit. But at what expense? At the expense of stealing our own identity or history? That's not gonna flow.
No, what we need to do is we need to take tours down there. Our own people need to do that, and then go set those guys straight.
Yeah, that's what. Yeah, like
I'm looking at the group. I'm looking at the African Americans and African group right now. It's 35.
Well, dude, that's 15,000 more than it was a year ago, bro. It was literally it was like 19,000 a year ago, bro.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
So I mean,
it's fucking like beans.
Has like 1,000.
That's like what, like 70% increase.
Imagine when the 2020 census comes out. Jesus.
Oh, they're gonna see a huge flip in Native American population.
Everybody's gonna be Cherokee.
Everybody's gonna be.
They're gonna say,
where
did all the African Americans go? So many Native Americans. Crazy.
It's a what?
Said I only claim Salvadorian. I'm Salvadorian, and I got native blood.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. No, but the motherfuckers that will have 1% or nothing, you know what I'm saying? These motherfuckers are gonna be the ones
claiming that.
Just talking about they full blooded Choctaw and shit.
No, they're gonna make their own little box and put Aboriginal.
Right. Abos.
And then the census is gonna end up calling Australia and saying, "We got a lot of your Aboriginals over here."
Right. Oh shit.
That's funny shit. So, hey, Khalid, where are you at? Are you back east or what?
Yeah, I'm in Philadelphia, but I'm originally from New York.
So it's like 420 over there. Shit.
Yeah, it's 419 on this side.
Shit. Hey, I'm gonna let you go, man, because it's already it's past my bedtime over here at 1:20. So
I bet, man.
All right, brother.
It's good talking to all you guys. You guys take
all right, brother.
Have a good night, and we'll talk later.
Yep.
All right.
Okay, bro.
Damn, man. Dude, the fucking We were not live streaming in the group at all. Fuck.
Yeah, we were, but what happened was like at the I guess sometime at the hour mark because I kept checking back and forth while I was cursing out a
Yeah.
Mars. We were live, but then I think like sometime after the first hour, these whole ass niggas reported my shit, and I got
No,
booted.
no. You know when I told you that we were live. We were actually not live like fucking 2 hours before that, bro.
Really?
Yeah, yeah, because I remember because and my dumbass didn't realize it because I saw your chat I mean your chat profile pic
Right.
gone.
Oh,
So yeah, so we were already disconnected for like 2 hours prior.
get the fuck
So
out. 'Cause,
this
damn, how
conversation,
long have we been
Yeah.
talking? How long were we talking to him? Because I know at least we got
We were talking to him for a good while, yeah. But at the very least, at least we got this shit recorded, right? Like this is
yeah,
recording right now.
this whole thing has like the last part. As soon as you told me that shit was stopped, like that shit booted me, and I checked it. I started putting
Yeah.
the broadcast like it's been broadcasted.
Oh, wait, and that's when it said live at the top.
Yeah, yeah. I didn't
Ah,
realize
damn. So
it.
yeah, we probably did miss like at
At least
least
a
a good
good.
hour.
Yeah, because I didn't realize my
Yeah,
double check to put the broadcast was starting because we was recording on Facebook. So I
yeah,
thought we was good and shit. And I didn't fucking double check. I didn't think that these whole ass niggas
yeah,
shit blacked out since the account has been good.
yeah.
Because it lasted like this is the longest I've lasted without fucking having to make a new account like every
Right.
was making a new one.
Every
Uh,
other, yeah, yeah,
yeah, like every other hour, fuck a day, like every other hour and shit. I had to,
yeah, yeah.
but,
Damn, and then this is the one you got. You're actually in the accepted in the group,
but the good thing is
which is what sucks.
no, like my other two accounts are coming unlocked on Saturday, so I'm still in it.
Oh,
Like
nice.
I'll post this shit up. What we got. It just sucks because if I could have access back to this account, which I probably never will, but if
Yeah,
I could, the video will still be there. It will come back.
yeah.
You know, of
I wonder,
Amar.
but they had already hit you with this one of verification, right?
Yeah, like they hit me with the number, and now they hit
Yeah,
me with the. So you
with the
already know how that
picture,
shit.
right? Yeah, yeah, yeah. Fuck.
right?
It was just annoying because we couldn't even get more of the conversation because Amar was just being on some dumbass shit.
Yeah, well, I think, yeah, I mean, period. People could tell, you know what I'm saying? Um, the anybody who watches that will clearly anybody with a brain, with at least half anybody with at least half of a brain, can tell that he was just not answering the question at all. He was
Yeah,
running away from it.
he didn't answer shit and shit. Like that's why he kept going to you because it was like you was giving him some leeway, and I'm like, bro, no, don't give him leeway
Yeah,
because he nitpicks the shit out of shit. Like,
yeah. But see, eventually that runs out though. Like that's that like where I felt like he hit a big roadblock, and he was trying to dance around it was like that whole shit. Like the like the fact that we're no dumbass, we're not asking you for a reference to your methodology. We're asking you a reference for any linguist saying that Utah State has a Hebrew input, and at that point he had to say, genetic fallacy and fucking, and moving the post like those don't even apply. They don't
like
even
he wasn't
apply.
even post if anything, and then want to accuse us of that shit.
Right, right.
He's a
We're not
moron.
moving the post. I'm trying to figure out what, yeah, it's just retarded.
Because he's a fucking moron. Because he wanted to grab on as if I was saying that modern Hebrew, which is not ancient Hebrew, is extinct.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Like you didn't have to say you shouldn't have to make the distinction between modern and ancient because the context in which you were speaking in lets you know. But he wanted to nitpick at that.
Yeah, like I'm like, dude, okay, idiot.
Yeah.
Like even in the first video, I
Just
explained.
like the Zoroastrian statement you made, like clearly you were talking about Hebrews prior to you making that statement. So the fact that you just said Zoroastrianism was the first monotheistic faith, um, there was no need for you to reiterate that for the Hebrews, right? Like
Oh
that's
yeah,
how that it was
that's
for the Hebrews, but yeah, because you know what he was trying to do. He was trying to apply it like if you were saying universally as a
universal.
whole, so that way he could say that you were saying that it was the first period in the world period, so that
Mm-hmm.
or no, that the Messiah concept, right, was
The
exclusive
first
to
one,
them.
because
Period. Yeah,
what I was trying to explain to him
yeah.
was that the
Uh huh.
as far as the Hebrews are concerned, like where they got their influence from was from
Right.
Zoroastrianism, and the Messiah concept
Right.
them it didn't come from Egypt because at that time around the I think it was the late third millennium, early second millennium of BC. Around that time,
Mm,
Hebrew Hebrews never had a major contact. The ancient ones, at least, didn't have major contact with Egypt. Like the Bible
right.
likes to say that Moses wasn't that Moses was enslaved and all that shit, but there's no proof that any of that should ever happen. You know,
Mm,
Hebrew like Western Asians started migrating into from the Levant into Egypt late into the second millennium BC, and we know that Zoroastrianism by just because the Hebrews were under occupation for the Persians for like about 150 years, and they completed their Old Testament at the end of Persian occupation.
yeah.
Archaeologists were able to pinpoint that they accepted certain tenements from the Zoroastrian faith, which is about the Savior.
Right.
It's called the Shawshant, which is the where the Savior concept comes from. Satan is Persian. It's also where the idea of the devil comes from. The fight of good and evil. The resurrection of the Shawshant. It's also Zoroastrianism, like
Mm,
the resurrection of like the analogy to the resurrection of Christ. None of those themes were present in polyistic Judaism, which came first. People would like to assume
right.
that Judaism was always monotheistic, but that's not the case. Like for example, like you know how a lot of Hebrew Israelites will talk about Yahweh and shit like that. Um,
Yep. Yeah.
Yahweh in polytheistic Judaism wasn't even seen as a major god. He was seen as a minor god, and then you had the higher god, Elohim. So that indicates
Mm-hmm.
early polytheistic ideals, and it wasn't until the occupation that they got everything else. They exchanged cultures, and they even if you want to even go by the Bible, even in the Bible, like I think I mentioned this last time I spoke to you, they thought that because Cyrus had King Cyrus, who was Zoroastrian, and that was his religion, King Cyrus of Persia,
Yeah.
when he rebuilt the temple, when he built the Temple Mount, even in the Bible, that says that King Cyrus was their Messiah, and they said that because
Mm,
he had rebuilt their temples that were sacked by the previous, I think, by the previous Babylonian empire, which completely did not want them practicing their Judaistic faith. So, and that's why I also mentioned attempt because I knew what he was trying to say. He was trying to say, like I'm saying, as if it was the first ever in existence. And as far as pure
mm-hmm.
monotheism, it was. But we do know in Egypt that they had a short-lived monotheism with some duality.
Period.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
they had some a period, but it lasted between 20 to 100 years, and then the successive dynasties completely erased any influence from Atem, meaning that that short time where they had that monotheistic dualism going on, it wasn't even enough time for it to be influential in Egyptian culture and spread. It's like a blip in the history of Egyptian religion. Like they just completely ignored it after Akhenaten passed away.
Right.
So
Right.
that's what I
Yeah.
was trying to explain to his dumb ass, that's where the connection comes from. It comes from the Indo-European religion, and I wanted to connect, like what I wanted to connect it is that Hebrews were influenced by another culture because they had contact with that culture. That's why they had all these influence in there, and therefore I wanted to see if he could show the connection between how Hebrew would have gone in Mesoamerica without contact, when we know the Persians and Hebrews made contact, and that's why you saw all these influence in the religion. There is no Hebrew influence, I believe, in Uzo-Aztecan religions. You don't see that shit.
Right.
Like there's no like as
and
little as I know about Mesoamerica, I at least know that.
Yeah.
So
And that's why I'm glad.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
No, go ahead, bro.
No, I was just gonna say that's why I'm glad that Ron asked that question so that I could dissect the cultural comparative game. Because it's like if you don't address it through an evolutionary psychological perspective, these motherfuckers think that they either got it from some fucking ethereal realm, like they must think that shit is true. You know what I'm saying? That they some akashic record shit, or hey, guess what, Amar? Contact. You know what I'm saying?
He hates that. He hates that shit. Like he didn't. That's why. Like I told him, like I bet you $20. Like you're still, even though they worshipped a 10, that wasn't the only thing they worshipped Anubis as the god of death, because he was seen as a duality, and that was also worshipped as well. And his temples were honored. It wasn't like they would just focus on a 10. And I was trying to get him to understand that, but he was a little hoe. So, like, he was just mad. Out of everybody, he's mad at me. So, because
he hates you, bro. He hates you.
I take that shit with pride, though. Anytime I can piss these albums off,
you and Jamie for sure. No, Jamie was going ham.
He was going in. Crying. Man, they be trying to be slick like we don't know he's Mark. Like, bruh.
You're right.
I'm like, bruh.
Come on, Jamie.
Like, Jamie, you brought up Mark for a reason. We didn't bring him up. You ain't low, bro. He's like, yeah,
you ain't slick.
You
ain't slick.
When he said that, I started dying. But yeah, like that's the only thing. Like he was like Amar was just trying to like find any fucking avenue and nitpick and shit. Like he was just trying to be like oh, Han had to correct you 10 times and shit. And I'm like, dude, the one thing I was wrong about was the AD shit. Because you're right. Like I was fucking thinking too fast. It was 13. I meant to say 13th century AD, but I said fucking.
Right. But that's a common mistake. I mean, it's not a common. What I mean is, it's a nuance. Like. Right. Like it could happen to anybody. It's just.
Yeah, he was just fucking being a little bitch. Like, no, but I told him, I was like, yeah, like Hunter's fucking intelligent as shit, but you're not. Like, like that's the thing. Like none of us are upset. We like he tried to say as if to say like, oh, like how we should be mad because you're really intelligent. Like that's something that we all embrace because we all have things that we dominate, and we have our strengths and our weaknesses.
Right.
And
exactly.
and that's something to be embraced. Like that's not only a weak ass person would be mad at the fact that someone is more knowledgeable in a certain area. Like you guys were teaching me a lot about Mesoamerican culture, and honestly, like I don't know enough about it. I really don't.
Right. Just like in the last debate with you and Yahweh, when it comes to physics, I shut the fuck up. I'm like, oh no, I got nothing to say here. At first I tried. I was trying to, but then I'm like, nah, let me just shut the fuck up because
I mean,
I don't know shit,
bro. Because I mean, you were dealing with someone like you don't even
who thinks that gravity is like, yeah. Is come on,
You
man.
know, that's what I was like. I was like, yo, you don't have to have a degree in fucking physics or astrophysics to understand that gravity exists. Like,
It's a thing.
it's a thing, or to even understand outside of physics, because he was just all over the place. Like, first we were talking about just genetic mutations, then he jumped to quantum physics, and then he just started talking about
Right.
relativity. Like, dude was all over the fucking place. Like, couldn't even stick to a subject. And albos do that
Yeah.
shit because they have this in need to prove that they're smart, and it's like that was my issue with Matteyu. Like, you have this
Yeah.
overwhelming need to prove that you're so extra smart, like as if like it's an insecurity. And dude, all you need to do is exercise common sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, bro. So yeah, like it was a shit show. Like he was just fucking emotional. Like, I wish he wasn't so fucking emotional, so we really could have had like a beat down conversation. It would have been more productive.
Well, I mean, it was back and forth.
Oh, for sure, for sure. I mean, like, come on, like we was not gonna let that nigga just run the show. That's why I saw your messages, but I didn't want to kick him because I knew what he was gonna do. Because
Yeah,
when
then he would have had an excuse
exactly.
later.
When you kicked him, he ran with that shit. He was saying that shit for like 2 days. Like, oh, they kicked me because I was right and I was giving them that work and they were struggling and they had no answers, and that's why they muted me and kicked me. That's why Jamie said the same shit. In the other group, he did the same thing. Like, and that's why I told Jamie to add him back, because I was like, yo, like, you're kicking him, and then he's using that as an excuse in the other group to say that y'all racist and y'all full of shit and y'all got mad because he was speaking the truth. That's why I told him to add him back. Like, let him leave on his own. So you see how his bitch ass had to leave on his
Right.
own? He left without answering anything. Like, what did he possibly say? You know what I mean? Like, I'm like, okay. And he's like, well, you guys. That's why he kept saying, kick me like you did last time, kick me, because he wanted an excuse.
Yeah. He didn't want to leave.
Yeah, I was like, yo, bitch, you can leave on your own. You know the way out. Like, you don't need my help for that. He had no choice because I'm like, I'm not kicking you.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, like,
Guy.
he was he's an idiot. Like, if you can
What's
get
his name? This guy said, what is his name? Billy. Oh well, fucking Ron. He said we could do a live tomorrow night about flat Earth and how humans never existed on Pangea, and use Michio Kaku's type civilizations, going and make them understand that comes from Kardashev scale. I don't know what Kardashev scale is.
Kardashev
What is
scale.
it?
I'm familiar with that.
Yeah, I'm
Never.
not into stuff, all that stuff like that. Like, yeah, the flat Earth thing. I mean, you gotta. It's like, I love how Joseph put it the other way. It's like that you gotta you gotta make yourself think like a dumbass
Right.
in order to understand fucking retards.
I
Like,
wish Joseph would
if
have
I
been
had half a brain,
right.
how? Oh, I see what you're saying now. I see what
Right.
you're
Like, yeah. Like, that shit is woke, bro. Like. I mean, I give props to Rashay for at least trying to mediate that whole shit. But
Yeah.
even you could tell that Rashay was like, bro, like when I tell you, like, dude, you're being mad extra, son. Like, you nigga was so man, fucking yelling like the disrespect, and I'm like, dude, why you breathing? Why you breathing like that? That's why I was laughing. Bro. Like, I was just like, dude, you're stupid as hell. Probably his fat ass will
Yeah.
fucking kick me. Because I was laughing and it was pissing him off. Like, oh, I'll beat you up. You don't know me, friend. And what's wrong with that? And I'm like, damn, nigga, like, you're sweating and you breathing heavy. You going on live. You doing all this shit. But that goes to
I mean, he like, as far as the as far as the subject matter, I mean, he essentially said that if he wants to say things in the context that nobody else on earth will understand him, that that you should just be cool with it. You know what I'm saying? Be cool with it, and it's like, well, I get what you're saying, bro, but it's like when you put it out there
It's factual. That's
as
what
if you are as if you are teaching other people this stuff, it's kind of like wrong, you know, like not right for you to.
I mean, it is wrong. Like if you're gonna put, that's why I said fuck that. Like it don't. I don't care how you want to express yourself as an individual. You have that right. Everybody does. But when you want to say that this is fact and you want to come from a position of ego and you're trying to teach people and you're saying, hey, look, what I'm saying is factual and this is the reason why, and then people with working brains know it's not, and then someone challenges you, you become emotional. It's like,
Yeah,
okay, put it out there. So you can't get mad if someone who is more knowledgeable in a certain criteria is telling you, hey, look, what you're saying is stupid. It makes no sense. You can't get mad at that. You gotta get mad at yourself.
yeah.
You know, like I don't care how he expresses himself, but don't be putting out stupid shit and think people are just gonna swallow that shit and not have any brains. We have brains. Yeah, so,
Yeah, man. It's that whole thing. It's like, man, like that's what I'm saying. Like, they try to get into linguistics, bro, and all this other shit. And it's like they fell. They fell
hell
hard.
no. What you saying?
Especially now that.
Go
What
ahead,
was
bro.
that?
No, no, go ahead.
No, no, go ahead.
Oh no, I was
Well,
gonna
I
say.
was just gonna. Go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead.
No, go ahead, bro. My bad.
No, I was just gonna say, especially now, like if I find anybody making European claims and shit about like, oh, the first Greeks were black or this or that, I'm going ham because I just went through like a whole fucking day of studying this shit, and
Like,
uh,
yeah.
and yeah, man, it's crazy. Like they play that false cognate shit. It's the only thing they depend on because they know the biology isn't gonna be there. So it's like, how the fuck was the language there if the biology isn't there? You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. It's
The
why, like,
genetics in there.
when I explained to him why like German wasn't Latin, he shut up and he was like, you know what? I don't have a problem with that. I'm like, of course you don't, you motherfucker. But on your video, you kept insisting to me, and not just me, but he kept telling Joseph this shit too. And even Joseph was telling him, no, that's wrong. He kept insisting that
Yeah.
German, because just because of the label, just because that's the label that Romans had put on the barbarians that did not speak Latin, that does not mean that
Right.
Germans go around calling themselves like, yeah, like they use it in the colloquial sense, but they understand that they
Right.
are Deutschland. You know, they are Deutsch. So and
Right. Right.
Germanic is not Latin. Like it's not. It's not even in the Italic fucking family branch. So you wanna, you know, and that's why I gave him that example, because I can speak Japanese at an intermediate level. Am I fluent? No, I'm not fluent yet, but I can speak it enough that I can hold conversation. Because especially where I went, when I went to this place called Gifu, there is no English
Mm-hmm.
speak. You know, in Tokyo,
Mm.
you might
Yeah.
find some English speakers, but Japan is actually one of the Asian countries where there's very minute English, because although they have it as part of their educational system, they don't practice conversation. They just practice grammatically. So they have a real
Yeah.
lack of English problem there. Like if you go there, it is often you should have an intermediate understanding of the language, or you should have at least somebody that can go with you that speaks it, because you're gonna have a hard time communicating if you don't.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's why I was trying to explain to Matthew, like, nigga, it's common sense. We don't all speak the same language in the same way that we don't all have the same, you know, we're 99, like, as far as humans are concerned, yeah, we have 97% of our DNA is the same as each other, but we have some genetic differences. Same thing with
Right.
language.
Right.
People evolve, languages evolve. Same thing.
Yeah.
So
Man. All that shit they be talking, it's for the birds, like you say, for the birds.
Yeah, it's fucking dumb. Like you wanna spread that ghetto linguistic shit. You realize Kundalini didn't even wanna like come and play. He's been quiet, like not even
Oh
mentioned.
no,
Hey,
yeah.
man, that nigga's been hushed.
Well, Rashay did say, and he did post a video. Kundalini himself posted a video where he said he got a new job,
Yeah,
supposedly. But
allegedly, yeah,
I
allegedly. How
I
convenient.
think he was in a car wash or some shit. That's what the fuck it looked like.
Yes, guys, Kundalini.
He from the car wash. I'm a
I mean,
linguist though.
I'm a linguist though. Like I got all this knowledge and know-how. But I wash cars for $7 an hour plus tips. I mean,
Right.
I'm not gonna shout anybody's hard work, but I mean, like, how convenient that when we are actually going live, all of a sudden, you know,
Right. He's nowhere to be found. He
nowhere
can't
to
be found. Yeah.
because he especially like since he was talking the most shit about you, how he wanted to debate you,
Hmm.
how
Exactly.
he was a punk ass and you was nowhere to be
But
found.
not not but now he don't got a Google account.
Right now he don't now he's 50 and oh. Oh no, Kevin Jameson, that dude is what is good with that dude?
What did he say? He said some other shit.
Yeah, he said some other shit because he fucking tagged me. He got emotional because I tagged him in our last live stream, right? So
Yeah.
he got fucking emotional just by virtue of the tag. So he tagged in some fucking post that had nothing to do with shit. Like it was a
Yeah.
post about how it was just saying Amar
Africa is understudied.
like no like just saying like for example that we need to stop speaking that science shit because Europeans they try to hide uh um what
Right.
you
Yeah. And he posted two screenshots, right?
right and I was like nigga
Yeah. That was the one that I saw. Yeah, because where he told me, he said, remember we already did that science shit, Hoon. And it's like, motherfucker, what does that mean? What does it mean? We already did the science shit. Like, say something concrete. Well, he got mad. He got mad basically because he said he listened to our live stream, and and he got mad because I called him out. Remember where I told you that he thought he found something new when we've been addressing fucking Rafinesque forever, that colonist that said he saw black natives.
yes
And yeah, and so he got mad because of that. Because I mean, I guess what he was trying to say with we already did that science shit is that obviously that Eurocentrism is that science is biased and all that shit. Towards Eurocentrism and all that shit.
yeah, like he wants to talk
So
community like he got mad like he I was like and he tagged me and I was like okay what the fuck is your point with that shit and that made him even more mad because I like just was like
hmm
laughing and I brushed it off. I'm like okay and your point like give me some
hmm yeah.
substance. What are you debating? And then he was like, oh, you guys went online. He started saying that same shit that Dame shit said. He's like, you guys went live at 3 a.m. and y'all whole ass niggas expected me to be there. And I'm like, dude, I don't fucking know your bitch ass. I just tagged you and look how emotional you are. Like you're not giving me anything concrete. Like, and then you had Dame stupid ass just going in posting random shit. Like he was like, well, the oldest
Oh yeah, that dude's retarded.
that dude's fucking stupid, son. Like he posted some random shit today. He was like, well, one of the oldest skeletons was found in Egypt. I'm like, yeah, Egypt is in Africa. Okay, your point. The fuck does that have to do with anything?
Right.
Like who cares? Niggas will post irrelevant shit that have nothing to do with anything.
Yeah, they're retarded, bro. They're just dumb.
I don't know how you have the patience. I don't know how you didn't lose your patience this time.
Nah, I was just cool trying to.
Yeah.
I feel like we still got no. I mean, where did we
Didn't go
didn't
anywhere.
go. We got nowhere. Yeah, it was like the same shit. We were trying to ask him. Or I mean, that no, that was the real uh goalpost. The moving of the goalpost where last time it was like okay, so if they didn't cross over the Bering Strait with it, how did they get it? Right. That was that last time. And this time it was, show me one single linguist that agrees with that conclusion. And he kept, you know, getting
Dancing.
away from that.
He kept
Yeah,
dancing.
that's
Like,
all
and then he had the nerve to fucking lie about it in the first place, as if because that's all his comments on my post was like, "Oh, I never said that they didn't bring it with them." And then when I play, when Joseph asked him, then he's like, "Well, um, I said that they didn't bring it with them." Like I'm like, dude, like in the comments on the fucking post, you were saying like like what? Like you were saying that you weren't saying that they never bought it, and then you were saying that they did. Like then you were just like, oh,
right.
like what the fuck are you talking?
Dude, he's just like that. That is the most like it's
Bipolar.
right there. Like you could be saying that, you could be saying some shit like anything. You're on camera. You're on fucking audio saying it,
Like you on fucking
and
audio,
he still
but
denies it.
even within the conversation, he literally he will say something 1 second. I've never seen some shit like some schizophrenic shit where you would say something for 1 second and literally in that second deny that you said it. Like that is some mental illness right there. Like to just arbitrarily deny that you were alluding. First you denied that they didn't bring it here. Okay. And then you said that first you denied that you didn't say that they didn't bring it here. And then you said no, I said they didn't bring it here. And then when and then when someone's asking you, okay, so then how was it introduced? You're like, well, I don't have to answer that because it's not with the methodology, and you guys have to prove the methodology is incorrect. Okay, Thomas, we're not arguing the methodology. We're just arguing what led you to that conclusion based on what evidence. Oh, I don't have to prove you. I don't have to show you that evidence because it's a fallacy. What?
Yeah, he's just
He's a fucking retard. Get out there.
yeah.
Dude is
But
stupid. Yeah.
yeah, but hey,
But
I'm tired. I know, bro. I'm about to knock the fuck out.
nah, you good, bro. I'm about to actually do the same myself, though. Um, I don't know if you're gonna go live tomorrow, it would have to be you solo with these guys because I'm gonna be at work tomorrow.
Okay, yeah, for sure. Um, yeah, I'll see if I could set it up on my end
Yeah, I
and
got
send them an invite. And I'll just probably need somebody to just share it, I guess.
yeah. I mean, are you even in the group?
No, that's what I'm saying. Like, I will post it in my personal page, the live stream, and have somebody just share it in the group.
Bro,
Somebody that's in the group, like
let's see,
maybe Joseph or somebody.
let's see if they can do that shit. I'll be back in the group. I'll see. There's a point in making another account because my main account is gonna unlock soon, so
Okay.
it should unlock on what is today? Friday. It should tomorrow. It should be good. So
Okay.
let you go, bro.
All right, brother.
Man.
Yeah, and tell you, if your sister wanna hop on in the morning, tell her to let me know
Yeah, I'll ask her. See what she's doing tomorrow if she wants to pop in.
for sure.
All right, bro. You stay
Uh,
easy.
we'll talk later.
All right, bro.
All right.